3rd chapter.
Hello.
Oh.
So technology is programmed. Right? It's not our people that's training ChatGPT. It's people that are, that's why this morning I said, they're coming against the Christians. And the Christians don't realize that they're under attack. This is a war we're looking at.
Yes.
Come on now.
Good. So good.
Go ahead.
So I did a panel on AI about a month and a half ago down in Southwest Florida. And fortunately, I was the one on the panel that actually said, hey, we've got a much bigger issue here. Here's what I stated, and this is true today. Technology is a tool, much like any other tool. It can be used for good or for evil. Here was my challenge to people. There were very wealthy people in this room with a lot of power. I said, here's your problem. There is no moral compass or biblical worldview coming at this thing. You're scared, but I have to ask you a hard question. What in the Hades did you expect to happen? When you seed ground, who's programming it? Because it's imperfect by nature. People say AI is perfect. It can't be because man created it.
That's right.
But who is programming this stuff? Where is their moral compass and biblical worldview?
Yep.
If you want to know why there's a problem, look in the mirror.
Yep.
These are the guys who are shaping thought over technology. Not today, not on our watch.
Facebook says that if you've done 500 posts, they know more about your personality and who you are and what you're going to do than you know yourself.
Y'all good so far?
That's pretty scary, isn't it?
Y'all good so far?
Yep.
All right, we're about to go a little deeper. All right, so we talked about the idea of one world government, one world religion, some of the ways they're going to get there. The rabbit hole goes deeper. So that headline says bonus holes, the full frontal attack on women. So I'll preface for you guys, then we're going to get into this whole womb transplant thing. Oh, right. Okay. So in the UK, because they felt that men who think they're women weren't getting the proper level of respect, the term for the female anatomy was inappropriate. So they deemed them to be bonus holes. That's the title of the article. Bonus holes. The UK medical leadership, in conjunction with the LGBTQIA plus minus 2 spirit sideways on Thursday, came up with this idea. Okay. Because we need to be more inclusive of men who think they're women. I will not say the word. I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, RC and I have been fighting back because we need to understand that this is really a war on women. Okay, we write about the war on women. Even the Second Amendment, right? You want to take away my gun? This dude walks into my house and wants his way with me. I can't take care of myself. I can't protect myself unless I have a gun. I went to John Jay College of Criminal Justice. I was the VP of the gun club. You're going to tell me you're going to take my weapon? No. Because you're disarming me to be able to protect my children. I'm sorry.
By the way, just a quick aside, Second Amendment protects the First Amendment.
That's it.
That's why guys like John Kerry can't, that's why they want to kill it. You see what I'm saying? And the reason they can't is because the Second Amendment exists. Y'all good?
Yep. Okay.
I just want to note the date quickly before we move on. This is almost 2 years ago. Okay? So we talked about the bonus hole thing. Here's what I want to get to, because it is even more nefarious than that. So I'll get through that. I want to get to this. Now, the answer may be no, but I'll start anyway. Has anyone heard of the Wellcome Trust? If not, that's fine.
Nope.
The Wellcome Trust is a nonprofit with a base in the UK and also a strong presence in New England. Here's what they did. They took money for a study from the NIH. That's your money, by the way. You're a taxpayer. Okay, everybody's got to pay. They took money for a study. Y'all ready for this? The study was taking the wombs out of female cadavers and putting them into men who think that they are women with the goal of having a child.
Every woman should be standing up in protest to what they're doing with our money. They're coming against the women because if they hurt the women, there's no children. Oh, wait, there will be children. And we'll explain that after.
Yeah. So, we started this with some pictures because we've been covering this for a while. There's a transgender MMA fighter who almost killed a woman.
Didn't she just lose her gold medal? Didn't she just have to
No,
give it back?
that's the boxer.
That's the boxer.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, he's quite a man.
Huh?
Thank you, guys. Most people miss that. Okay. So Washington Free Beacon, when the Bidens were doing whatever they were doing, Jill Biden gives the International Women of Courage Award to a man who thinks they're a woman. Right? Juliana was talking about no longer needing women to have babies.
They can literally take one person's DNA and create a baby. They can take 8 people's DNA, splice it together, and make a baby. Where's women in this factor? Is that baby, does it have a soul? Because it didn't come from father. Like, what are we creating? Is it technically still considered a human being, or is it not considered technically a human being?
Pesky women. Pesky women. So quickly, Ectolife, that video that you see up there, they said, well, what's the need even to have a birth the natural way? We can just create these pods. You guys can put your stuff in and a baby could be created. You can watch the whole process. If that looks familiar to you at all, if you've seen the movie The Matrix.
Yes.
Oh, art imitates life, except when it doesn't because it's already happening. Okay, so
RC is literally, we're going to start a podcast between him and somebody else that they love to look at movies and dissect them and say, this is what they told us some 20 years ago, right? So we're going to have a podcast about that because people need to understand that the devil has to tell you what they're going to do.
That's right.
Right? So we need to recognize what he's saying and how he's saying it to us.
Agent Smith is everyone and he is no one. Let me continue. So the Wellcome Trust didn't just take the money and make stuff up. This is a diagram. We actually had to read through the whole study, which I encourage you not to do. We did it for you. Here's the breakdown. They diagrammed how they would take a womb from a woman and put it into a man. That's the lower right. You can barely see it. And how a man could give what is called a butt birth.
I saw a video, I don't remember. Oh,
I'm going to come to that in a second.
I saw a video, I don't remember who it was, but she was in front of Congress and she was talking about how men can have babies. And when she was questioned, she talked about butt births. And I was like, are you kidding me? That we've got somebody in front of our government talking this blasphemy?
So
He had a good night, and then a morning thought he couldn't shake. Opened his phone, answered some questions, had a provider review it. Whatever he was worried about, he handled it. No office, no awkward waiting room, just done. 360phi.com. Your phone, your business.
Most of us have something we have been quietly managing, hoping it resolves, telling ourselves we will deal with it next week. Board-certified providers are available today from your home, private, thorough, and licensed in your state. Stop putting it off. 360phi.com.
When you choose Patriot Mobile, you're not just picking a wireless provider. You're choosing a company that shares your values. It's easy to switch, and you can keep your number, your phone, and most importantly, your values. With Patriot Mobile, you get the power of nationwide coverage on all 3 major networks. That means wherever life takes you, we've got you covered on the same reliable networks you already know and trust. And when you need us, we're here for you right here at home. Our customer service is 100% US-based because we believe that support should come from people who understand you and your values. At Patriot Mobile, you're not just another call, you're a priority. In today's world, where you spend your money matters more than ever, every dollar is a vote for the kind of future you want to build. Join the thousands of Americans making a difference with every call, every text, and every connection. Choose a company that shares your values. Choose Patriot Mobile.
they showed you how they were going to do this. They spent a whole bunch of money on it, right? So here's the conclusion of the study. The Wellcome Trust concluded that it would be immoral not to offer this to men who think they're women. It would be immoral not to offer because they deserve to have babies too.
This is why the church needs to have righteous indignation at this point.
All right? Righteous indignation.
That's right.
Amen. So before we move on, I want you guys to know some of the groups that have said they're on board with this and they can move quickly. One of those groups said, we're already working on it. We've got 2 teams of 5 people, and within 2 years, we'll be able to do it. Would you like to know who that is? Yes. The Cleveland Clinic. Oh! A lot of you didn't see that coming. The same people who purport to help you are your enemy. But unless you know the causes of things, you will not know this, yes? Okay, let's continue. So Juliana touched on this, and I'll go to it. So men making their own eggs. All right? Wall Street Journal goes through this. Gay Japanese scientist, I guess I'll give them
right.
the story. Yeah. Gay Japanese scientist says, well, I want to have kids. And I'm gay, so how's that going to happen? I can't adopt. Well, listen, we don't really need women. I can take cells from a man, or 2 men, or 3 men, or 2 men and 1 lady, or whatever, and I can just create a kid. Now, you guys are like, you're out of your mind, RC. Well, I would agree with you, except the Wall Street Journal did an entire feature on it. Like a full-length feature describing how this would work based on this guy's science. So now, war on women.
Yep.
Let's dehumanize women and say, well, a man can be a woman too.
Yep.
Then let's say, well, look, if that's the case, then a woman giving birth naturally isn't a big deal. We don't even need that. Then let's say, well, look, we don't even need a woman to have a child. The causes of things, because what's the real goal? It's not men with female wombs in them or anything like that. It is the destruction of the woman, which is a destruction of God's order. You guys remember the order? God, husband, wife, children? They cut the man out already. They've already destabilized it. Got to get the woman out of the way to get to the children.
Yep.
You own the children, you own the future.
Yep.
Everybody follow? Yes. All right, we'll keep rolling. So we've got you guys down this road, right? Well, if I told you it gets stranger, it certainly does. Over the last few months, there was a story that came out that young scientists at MIT had figured out a way to not have to experiment on animals anymore. Except for what they came up with. They said, well, look, we can grow bodyoids, basically human beings without a conscience or a spirit, in a lab and experiment and use those parts for things, instead of using pig hearts and everything.
And then the leftover, we can eat them along with our bugs.
Oh, they said it proudly. One moment, please. Yeah. Fake humans are being created and used for spare parts, medical experiments, and believe it or not, even food. Scientists are now talking openly about making full-grown human bodies in artificial wombs, engineered to be brainless and unable to feel pain. Oh. Oh. In a shocking article from the MIT Technology Review, a radical new source of transplant organs, lab-grown brainless human bodies. And I quote, bodyoids would be grown in artificial wombs and genetically engineered to lack any form of consciousness or pain perception. Last I checked, there is only one that can create life and gives us the gift of being able to do it on his behalf. When did MIT scientists come up with a way to do this? You guys know how that ends, right? But they're literally doing this, right? And so the Sun says these bodyoids could be used to create meat. It'd be more ethical than killing animals. I don't know about y'all, I enjoyed a great steak, and that came from a cow, and I prefer to have it that way. Yeah. You know, by the way, when they make that genetically modified food, it's basically the cancerous cells of whatever they created. That's the meat that they give you. Right. Oh, lab-grown cow is a great way. I'm not eating cancer. Thanks, have a great day. Okay. You guys, you get it? So you see where they're taking you, right? If they can get you to accept these things, religion should include everybody. Don't really need women. They can get you to the point where you'll eat people. Y'all good? Everybody good so far? As good as you're going to get? Yes. All right. So we've covered these bases. Let's go to the control mechanism side of it. Juliana, did you want to? Want to talk a little bit about this?
So this is the big, beautiful bill?
Yes, it is, ma'am.
Who understands that the big, beautiful bill neuters the states from being able to regulate artificial intelligence, so only the federal government can do that? Companies like Oracle, right? So now we're looking at, hold on a second. First of all, let's start with the fact that you can't legislate yourself powers. You're given few and defined powers given to you by us. And now you're going to tell us that you're going to regulate artificial intelligence? My people in the human trafficking world are screaming at the top of their lungs because of this. Because they're like, if you neuter the states and all the regulation comes off from the artificial intelligence, they're using that against our kids. Our kids are committing suicide because they're online, right? And they're talking to, could be a person, could be a bot, right? It could be artificial intelligence. And kids were told, you know what? You are really depressed. Your family really hates you. Kill yourself.
Why not?
Or you hate your family. Go kill your parents. And they're using artificial intelligence to do that. So my human trafficking people are going, if they take away our ability to regulate, then companies like Oracle have complete control and they can do whatever they want to do. She likened it to the vaccine manufacturers. Oh, they have complete immunity. They can vaccinate you, they can come up with whatever schedule, and they can tell you that you're wrong if you don't take the vaccine. Oh, and you can't sue them. So if you're injured, sucks to be you, right? They're doing the same thing with technology right now. And our federal government is allowing it. And we, by default, are allowing it to happen because we're not saying that big, beautiful bill is not big, it's not beautiful. It's not. There are certain things in there that we're like, oh, we're really excited about it. But when you take your own authority and tell us that you're going to take authority that is not yours, and you're going to tell us to sit down and take a seat, I'm sorry, you're putting the children at risk. You now have a dictatorship that's happening. Who's regulating this technology against us? We're supposed to be saying what we want to be having done in our communities. And artificial intelligence impacts every single family.
Amen to that. Now, Juliana touched on this with the feds. The feds can't even balance the budget. You mean to tell me that they're going to do a better job of coming up with AI regulation than an individual state?
Let's put it this way. The federal government has 2 books, according to Catherine Austin Fitts. 2 books. And that if you reconcile the monies, right, there goes our deficit. But they're doing shenanigans. You get to see this book, but you don't get to see this financial book. You think they're going to do any different with artificial intelligence? They've already weaponized ChatGPT. It's not going to get better.
So you guys understand and see what they did here. The tax cuts are in that bill. Everybody understands that, right? Are those important? Absolutely. The question was posed to us. Well, would you let them die for something like this? Yes. Because if we continue to cede ground, this is a blatant violation of the 10th Amendment of the Constitution of the United States. You can't tell the states what to do, the states tell you what to do. That's how the federal apparatus works, in case you guys didn't know. The states created the federal government, not the other way around. I know this isn't a history class, but it's important that you guys have context. You have to understand the causes of things. Blatant violation of the 10th Amendment, right? If you let them continue to railroad you into the illusion of false choice, if you don't do it, everything's going to die. No, it's not. Magically, you guys will figure something out because you always do. You always manage to not shut down the government.
Wow.
Oh, always. Right? Always. Y'all can figure this out too. By the way, they're voting on this today. I don't know if you guys knew that. The Senate's voting on this thing. And guess what's still in there? AI moratorium. How y'all doing? Good? I know, right? Told you guys, once you see it, you can't unsee it. Feel like the Oracle in the Matrix. Every time I see y'all, it seems like I got bad news. No, I'm just kidding. Okay, all right.
Most growing businesses are making 7-figure decisions on gut feel and assumptions. The biggest companies in the world don't operate that way. Neither should you. Sherlock gives you market intelligence they pay 6 figures for. We find your buyers before your competitors do. Visit invest.
Let's keep going. So we talked about that, right? So that's control mechanism number one. Control mechanism number two. Anybody familiar with central bank digital currency, CBDC? Have we heard about this? Yes. Okay.
Unpack it.
Yeah, unpack it. So a centralized digital currency is a control mechanism. Imagine the world where you get your paycheck. And then you're told exactly how, when, where, and who you can spend that paycheck with. And if you don't comply, they can just cut it off.
Remember when they cut off the monies, they cut SWIFT from Russia, so Russia couldn't get our funding, couldn't get money? So they created a gold-backed digital currency. It was because we shut off the monies. Remember when the truckers were in Canada and we were trying to get the monies and they shut off the monies? They'll be able to do that to every single one of us.
Yeah. That logic of a central bank digital currency, this exists in China. Sister Pearl is going to know this, right? This already exists in China under a social credit score system. Yep. So based on your adherence to big government, remember God gave us inalienable rights, we get our rights from him. Well, in China, it's a little different. You get them from the state. If this sounds like communism or Marxism or totalitarianism, you are spot on. Yep. You're in that chapter of the book. So in China, if you decide that you're going to jaywalk and you don't do it, but you thought about it, they're like, oh, that's a problem. You're not a good citizen. Yep. Predictive policing.
They say that they can make atonement. They can go do good things, and then they go back to the government and say, look, I did these things. Can you give me a better credit score?
Oh. So they decide,
yep.
Okay, look, you're a bad actor, so you want a burger because you want to drown your sorrows with a burger and a beer. You go to buy it, money won't work there because you're a bad actor, sir. Jeff Arago, you are not a proper citizen. No soup for you, right? Or burger.
So Trump comes out and he goes, we're not going to do the CBDC. I canceled the CBDC. Anybody heard that? Now he's talking about XRP. Oh, don't look at the CBDC. Now look at XRP. Yeah. Well, what's the similarity between the two of them? It's centrally controlled. They can turn on and off the monies, whether it's an XRP or a CBDC. So we're like, Trump, if you really are about our sovereignty, you would do something like a Bitcoin, where it's not centrally located, where the government cannot manipulate the monies. But he's not doing that because we're not pressuring him. I always say Trump stands in the middle between we the people and they the government, right? They've got the money, they've got the power, and what are we doing? We don't have the money and we're not exerting our power. So Trump is going to do what he's told to do by his handlers. You think that he's in control of everything? No, absolutely, positively not.
And an important lesson for the saints, we were talking with Apostle Vega yesterday, and she brought up a very good point, that I think when you get so far down the road in this, you don't think about what our responsibility is as the saints. Our responsibility is to pull him back, right? If we're praying correctly, God's a God of order. If we are coming with repentance and humility and we're asking him to use us as willing vessels, he will move Donald Trump's heart in the proper direction. He will hear and see. But if we're like, Trump's going to save us, God's looking at you like,
what are you doing?
What are you doing? I'm waiting on you. It's on us.
Trump and the higher politicians have all said the same thing. They're trying to make the federal government smaller. What does that mean? That means the responsibilities and the monies should go back to the states. What does that mean? That means the states need to know what we the people want. Right? That's why we're upset about the other slide that we had up. It's like, no, you can't have complete control for 10 years over technology because it's what we want. Mm-hmm. But if we're not telling Trump, if we're not telling our politicians what's going on and what we want in our communities, they're going to do whatever they want to do, which is what they've been doing, whatever they want. Go ahead.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
I don't want to
Okay.
But I know a lot of people in this room would say, and I can't say I'm speaking for everybody, but why aren't we hearing this, like the things that you're saying, and it's just for education so that we know. Why aren't we hearing this on outlets like that we have, I'm just going to say it,
Say 'em.
deified,
Yep.
like Fox News and Newsmax? Very cahoots. Go ahead.
No, it's all control. Everything that you're hearing, like the reason why we're standing here is for you guys to know the truth, not the propaganda, not what they want you to believe so they can bring in their agenda. It's like you need to understand exactly why they're doing what they're doing, not what they want you to know. Earlier we were talking about central casting. We were talking about the fact that this is all theater, right? This is all a front. For those of us that own businesses, what your front-facing business looks like and what your back end of your business looks like is two completely things. So behind the scenes, they're manufacturing what they want you to understand. They want you to see the poly crisis. Go ahead.
And I may be getting ahead of myself, but the people really need to know this, and I'm just going to say it now. A lot of people, and RC, you and I have discussed this. Please, Lord, I don't want to get in trouble with nobody in here, so please don't beat me up. In trouble. But, get in trouble. Okay, but we know, thank you, our mutual, I do consider them friends, our mutual friend John B. Wells, whom if a lot of you don't listen to him Monday through Saturday, you really do need to listen to him. In particular, every Saturday he has an intelligence briefing that Mary Fanning and his wife Brendy produce with a lot of the white hat generals, or the real people that have the real intelligence. So one of the things that a lot of people don't know was the first thing that you had spoke about was the fact that this dude in Ukraine, Zelensky, is a homosexual paid actor. This man was put in place and in position by George Soros. This man is a homosexual actor. And see, that is the thing. When you're watching fake news media, you don't know these things. See, and that's why 4 years ago, my father and I, we turned the TV off. I don't do Fox News. I don't do Newsmax. Because I repeatedly tell people, if these outlets are so good, why haven't they told you about Agenda 21, Agenda 2030? You understand? And also, the last point I want to make is that what a lot of people don't know, please don't throw bricks at me, don't kill me now, but what's his name from Israel?
Netanyahu?
Oh.
Is wicked and evil.
Oh my.
I mean, I'm just saying, this man is evil.
So that's
to the core. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was going to say, that's an entire rabbit hole. If you want me to go down that rabbit hole, I can.
But
having said that, it's all theatrics. So about 3-4 years ago, you started hearing about the word citizen journalist. Who's heard the word citizen journalist? The reason why they wanted to shut down TikTok and platforms like that is because they didn't want the citizens standing up telling other people what's going on. Because citizen journalists started, we were one of them. That's why we started writing what we've written, okay? Because we're like, people need to know what's going on. Because Fox, MSNBC, I would look at my dad, he's a die-hard Democrat. Oh my God, and I'm like, Dad, turn off the news. What you're listening to is lies, and you're believing what they're telling you.
yeah. So we're going to come to Agenda 2030 at the end. That's actually the last part. But I want to go back just for a second to the causes of things. You guys remember a couple minutes ago, we talked about once you understand the causes of things, the rest of this will make sense. Marshall presents the right question. Why aren't you hearing about this? That is the right question. Based on everything you heard after that, do you understand why now you don't hear about these things? Because they've got to keep you here or here, so you can't see everything around you. That is by design, because the way you get to one world government is through one world religion, is through pharmakeia, magic, right? Other methods of control, depopulation, and the only way to have obedient serfs is to tell them what to believe.
Yep.
Media.
Aha! Media! Prize for the young lady. That's why, Marshall, because the media has a very distinct job.
Yep.
It's a propaganda machine. There are breakdowns. If you guys go on YouTube, like they'll break down like Sean Hannity, and they'll show you all the nuances of how it's not news, it's opinion. You've been transitioned from news to opinion and even realize it happened.
Where's Walter Cronkite when you need him?
Oh, man.
Right?
Of all people, right? So what's weird about Cronkite, and I'll promise I stop. Cronkite was a Satanist. He's a liberal. He's a raging liberal. Now,
He's a Mason.
Yeah, and a Mason. Before you go on, though, did you guys even realize that before I said it? No. Did it impact?
Most growing businesses are making seven-figure decisions on gut feel and assumptions. The biggest companies in the world don't operate that way. Neither should you. Sherlock gives you market intelligence they pay six figures for. We find your buyers before your competitors do. Visit investinanswers.com to learn more. Most of us have something we have been quietly managing, hoping it resolves, telling ourselves we will deal with it next week. Board-certified providers are available today from your home. Private, thorough, and licensed in your state. Stop putting it off. 360phi.com.
Was it the same thing as last time? Instead of driving 40 minutes to find out, she ordered the test to her door and did it at home. She had real answers before the week was out. No waiting room, no half-day gone. 360phi.com. Real answers from home.
When you choose Patriot Mobile, you're not just picking a wireless provider. You're choosing a company that shares your values. It's easy to switch, and you can keep your number, your phone, and most importantly, your values.
Is news capability at all? By design, right? Because now where are we at? You guys have to understand, like with education, that's one we haven't gotten to yet. We'll get to that in a second. With education, they've stolen 100 years of education from us. We are taught to test, not taught to think, which is why you can get away with things like Marshall just mentioned. We have entire generations that have been taught to test and not taught to think. So when you look at a young person and you become frustrated with their inability to understand what you're saying, understand why. And then take a look in the mirror and ask yourself, as a believer and a saint, what you didn't do when you had an opportunity, then fix it right there. Okay, I'm not going to preach to you guys anymore. Sorry.
I'm going to continue on a different vein, right? RC and I have been talking about parallel economies. Who knows what a parallel economy is? It's an economy that's parallel to the economy that we're looking at, right? You're looking at fiat currency, but we need to look at other currencies. There is the trade and barter currency. It's real currencies that businesses use to be able to do trade and to be able to do their own works and pay each other without using fiat currency. This is called a gold back. It actually has gold in it. So Jeremy, who founded this organization, made gold fungible. What does fungible mean? It just means usable. That's it. So we have different denominations, and businesses are starting to take it. It's in Florida. It's obviously not in New York yet, but this is another currency for us to be able to do commerce with each other, because you know the fiat currency is going bye-bye. So if you have any kind of fiat currency, you want to change it into gold, silver, bullets, Rolex watches, guns, because at the end of the day, when the fiat currency goes bye-bye, and our government tells us that you need to be on an XRP or a CBDC, and you're being controlled, so you only have a certain amount of money in your account, and you can only spend it certain places, right? You're going to need to be able to do this, because this is how we, the people, be able to maintain our sovereignty. They have had a chokehold on us with the fiat currency. What they call inflation really is the devaluation, right, of the dollar. So now the dollar's about to bust. So now what? Who heard of Florida and how we are now able to have a gold-backed currency for the state of Florida, just for the state? Who here knows that each state is allowed to have its own currency outside of the Federal Reserve?
As long as it's gold and silver. It's in the Constitution, by the way.
So DeSantis just signed a bill so that we're able to, it won't be enacted. There's a lot of stuff that we need to do for it. So it won't be enacted for another year or so. But it allows the state of Florida to have a gold-backed currency outside of the federal dollar. That's what we need to help maintain our sovereignty. We need to have other currencies.
Yeah. And so we're in an economic vein. We're actually going to go to something even more nefarious, if you guys can believe this. I do want to touch on what Juliana said about economics. So anybody a fan of economics in the room? Okay, we'll do the old economics easy as pie, as my friend Bob McEwen says. So all economies, regardless of what they are, including you being at this session, all economies are built on trust. I don't care what you do.
Yep.
All economies are built on trust, which leads to a question we get often. Well, RC, that's great. What's this worth? Whatever I can get someone to pay me for.
Oh.
You guys realize that they make economic theory really complicated? But it comes down to two things. Paso Vega believes that if I give her $1, she can take it and go buy something else from this young lady. All economies are built on trust. Once that trust is broken, she'll no longer take it as a form of payment,
right,
a method of exchange, or a store of value. What's it worth? Whatever you can convince someone to pay you for it. Economics easy as pie. Okay?
But right now it is worth $3.75 because it has $3.75 worth of gold in it.
And so people ask us, they're like, well, what about the fiat? Like, we got in an argument. We teach in the largest retirement community in the country is up the road from us in the Villages. And one of the guys in there wanted to argue with me about, well, the fiat dollar and this. And I'm like, okay, so now we're going to break 70 years of economic programming in your life. And I promise you will never be the same after this. I said, okay, what if gold goes down? What if it does? What if gold goes up? What if it does? Here's what I do know. The difference between a fiat dollar and gold and silver is that we have 5,000 years worth of research that tells us gold and silver is a sustainable form of storing value, building wealth, right? And people trust it.
And it's God's money.
It's God's money.
Right? They have been intentionally suppressing the value of gold and silver. Why? Because they're using it. If Trump turns around and reevaluates gold, what's going to happen, RC?
Oh boy. So this could potentially happen. So we've been looking at whether or not Trump is going to reprice gold or he's going to tie the dollar to it in some way. That goes one of two ways. Either one, there is a short-term economic pain where the value of your assets goes down, but in the long run, it's like you having the flu and getting it out. It's going to sting for a little bit, you're going to hurt, you're going to feel sick, but in the end, you will be healthier and you won't get it again. That's how it's actually supposed to work, not with a vaccine. Okay. I think everybody in the room can appreciate that. The other way is a lot tougher. He decides that we're just going to hit it. We're just going to reprice. It goes to $10,000 an ounce, let's say, right? You wake up the next morning, you hear on the news that you're completely wiped out. But President Trump comes on and says, not to worry. We're going to match you 1-to-1 with our brand new central bank digital currency. You want the first one, not the second one. What's going to happen? We're not still 100% sure yet, but we will find out. Okay, I think we can keep going. I wanted to have the slides up, but we'll keep going for the sake of time.
Okay.
All right. So the next thing we were going to talk about is WorldCoin. Now, you probably have not heard of this, but we'll give you some context. Everybody familiar with ChatGPT? Yes. The company that's designed that is called OpenAI. A gentleman named Sam Altman stole it. Supposed to be a nonprofit. He basically stole the business.
Testing. Oh,
Are we good? Are we back? Okay.
Yep.
Basically stole the business. It was supposed to be a nonprofit, turned it into a for-profit. In doing that, he teamed up with a couple other guys and said, hey, it would be a great idea for people in third world countries to be able to transact digitally. Let's create a cryptocurrency that lets them do that and give everybody universal basic income. That was the birth of WorldCoin. Here's where it gets weird. In a story we did 2.5, maybe 3 years ago, we covered in third world countries that there was this giant silver orb floating around, and it was scanning people's irises, because the only way you can get WorldCoin is if you let it scan your iris. Sam Altman, OpenAI, ChatGPT, creates WorldCoin, has a giant orb, all-seeing eye that scans your eye to get your biometric information so that you can get a few bucks.
And now Peter Thiel and what Trump wants him to do with all the data collection.
I'm going to come to that. So what we said then is that if you let this man continue, this will be in the United States and you'll be in trouble. 2 months ago, WorldCoin launched in 7 cities in the US. It's already here.
The banks are ready. It's a flip of the switch. It's all technology. So at any moment, Trump could turn around and say, you know what, we're done with the fiat currency. Everyone is on a digital currency. And what are we going to do about it? Like, how are we going to react to him doing that? I mean, talk about putting us in a control grid. Catherine Austin Fitts always talks about how they're pushing us into a control grid. What does that really look like? We'll talk about that in a little bit.
Yeah, and so Peter Thiel, we actually about 18 months ago, we started talking about what realistically would happen if J.D. Vance was the nominee for vice president. Here's why.
Better.
Because J.D. Vance is bankrolled by Peter Thiel. If you guys don't know who Peter Thiel is, Silicon Valley investor, one of the first in Facebook and Twitter, made a ton of money. Okay. Back in the early 2000s, he created a company called Palantir. You guys have probably heard about this a bit more in the news lately. Ultimate surveillance technology.
Yep.
Biggest client, CIA, NSA, FBI, so on and so forth. Their entire business is to make sure the government can be in your business. We said, if you allow Peter Thiel to have an outsized influence on this administration, your technocracy will show up in a red dress instead of a blue dress, and you will like it. I'd like to fast forward you to what happened recently with the announcement that Palantir was basically going to be given carte blanche to collect your data and get a full digital dossier on every American. Your technocracy will show up in a red dress instead of a blue dress, and you will like it. When we told that to people, we got every harumph and gnaw and gnashing and weeping and everything else, and how anti-Trump we were, and how anti-J.D. Vance we were, and how anti-conservative we are. And I'm like, so wait a minute. Wait a minute.
She knew something was off the moment she woke up and didn't want to deal with the health center. She opened her phone, answered a few questions, and had a prescription ready before her roommate even got up, handled from her room. 360phi.com. Real care. No waiting room.
He had a good business, solid product, good people. He just couldn't figure out why growth had stalled. Sherlock found the buyers he didn't know were looking. Now he knows exactly where to go next. Learn more at investinanswers.com.
Was it the same thing as last time? Instead of driving 40 minutes to find out, she ordered the test to her door and did it at home. She had real answers before the week was out. No waiting room, no half-day gone. 360phi.com. Real answers from home.
If Patrick Henry knew that there were parts of the Constitution that weren't good and said, I smell a rat, if we can't be critical of things, what are we even doing here? That includes us, by the way. If you guys are critical of anything we say, that's fine. We don't take it personally. That is your right, and you may have insight that we can use. If we are not critical and vigilant over the government that we've allowed to represent us, why are we even doing this?
What we see in our streets with the homelessness and everything that's happening with our vets, that's intentional. Because if they can have that kind of system and they can send money over to Ukraine, into Israel and stuff like that, I'm calling baloney that you're not helping my brothers and sisters who need the help. Like, at this point, we need to be standing up and going, we reject the fact that you're taking our money and sending it elsewhere. You've designed a system here for us to be impoverished and to be hurting as a people. It's intentional. It's crimes against humanity. And that's the way we need to be looking at it. When I see homeless people and I see them walking, I know that doesn't need to be that way.
So you have to take a hard look.
Yep.
The causes of things are really important. Nothing personal against J.D. Vance. It's who you chose to take money from. I know who handles you. Therefore, since I know who handles you, I know the causes of things and what I'm going to get.
And just note the fact that Palantir and Oracle were two of the four companies that funded the parade that just happened in D.C.
And as an aside on that, before we
Or they
move
were
on-
knighted into military also.
Yeah. And a lot of these guys were basically sworn in
They were
into
sworn
military
in
roles in
as
intelligence.
military.
Yeah. So you guys remember when they announced Project Stargate at the White House? Masayoshi Son, little short Japanese Korean guy, and then Larry Ellison. Talk about a villain out of a comic book. Ellison is up there, and he is telling you, I encourage you to go back and watch that press conference. Larry Ellison basically tells you that with Project Stargate, you now no longer have to worry about being a good citizen. Because with all the monitoring that he'll be able to do on you, you'll have no choice. Which puts you in China. Social credit score. You will be a good citizen, or you'll disappear. Sister Pearl's working. She knows this because she was in China. But you guys understand?
Yes.
Are you following
Yeah.
these control mechanisms? Crater. You wanna
Good.
take
No,
that?
good.
So, one of the first story that we wrote for Rip from the Headlines, we covered the case of a gentleman named Randall Crater. Randall is a technologist who is now serving 8 years in prison. I'll explain why. Randall built a technology at the behest of the black sheep of the Disney family. Basically, it was a gold-backed cryptocurrency.
Government can't have that kind of competition.
The FBI sent a message. Y'all put your tinfoil hats on for a second. The government sent a message to him saying, listen, how much? We just want to buy it from you. Not interested. The government hates competition, their exact words. Sell it? Nope, not going to do it. So they figured out a way to say that Randall was running a gigantic scam, and it scammed $8 million from people. Now, mind you, all the evidence, because we looked through like
All of the evidence.
5,000 pages of evidence. We wanted to make sure we did this the right way. We're like, there's not a crime. This guy didn't commit a crime. Okay?
And the person who actually did, the black sheep of the Disney family, never touched.
Never touched. So since Randall chose to fight, and he had the resources to do so, he chose to fight. They bankrupted him, right? Because what they do is they cut off your ability to defend yourself. If you have money, they'll just cut it off. They'll
went
freeze your assets.
They went after his wife.
They went after his wife and his family. Here's the kicker, guys. And the reason we're sharing this is because if you don't stop all the things we've talked about, this is what will happen to you as a believer. Don't think they're just doing it for crypto. They'll figure out a way to come after you for what you believe and what you say, right? And the ground in which you stand on. You stand on biblical truth, they'll figure out a way. There was a witness that had exonerating evidence. This guy said, I did it. Literally. A guy named Marcus Gorby comes forward and says, all that stuff you're accusing Randall of, I did. And I will testify to it. Here's how gangster the feds are and why you don't want them doing things like putting a moratorium on states. The feds had this guy on their list as a witness so the defense couldn't call him. Then they dropped him without telling the defense. The defense never knew. They could never call Gorby to testify. If they had, it would have been over.
So they weaponized Congress, they weaponized the judicial system, they weaponized everything. People went to jail before him because they had to create the cases to be able to set the precedent to go after Randall. So this was it didn't just happen overnight. Like this was calculated by the judicial system. They knew exactly what they were doing. Congress was in on it as well. So we need to say, okay, so you've weaponized the two systems that are meant to protect us. The government's number one job is to protect our sovereignty. They're not obviously doing that.
Yeah, the feds don't have much to do, but they sure figure out a way to do a whole lot of nothing and make you pay for it.
Yep.
Few and defined powers, not much, but they sure figure out a way to weaponize the very thing that you fund against you.
Yep.
The causes of things are really important for context on what you need to do and how you see things coming. Everybody good? Yes. Plane is circling. We're coming up to the runway here. We're going to line it up and land the plane. So last one. This actually speaks to what Marshall asked about earlier. We talked about Agenda 2030. Anybody familiar with Agenda 2030? Yeah. Okay. So there's a UN agenda, and they have certain goals that they want to hit by 2030. They're saying they're going to alleviate poverty and do all these things. No, it's population control. You see, they've got to get rid of a bunch of you
Yep.
so that they can control The masses, because that's one world government, through one world religion, through medical, through everything. Okay. You guys good?
Yep.
All right. So how did they do this? Well, Agenda 2030 is kind of the blanket for that plan, and they learned a lot from China and their 100-year plan, 2049 plan. You've been invaded. You probably don't realize it. Or if you do and you're in this room and you get that, to what degree you've been invaded, you're still not certain. We're going to help with that. So Agenda 2030 happens. Well, how do you get there? Has anyone ever heard of a 15-minute city? We got a smart group here, Julian. This is
We
good.
live in one. For those of you that don't know, the agenda is here. RC and I live in a 15-minute city. Our commissioners unanimously, all 7 of them, voted for it. My commissioner looked me in the face with his bicycle helmet on and said, I used my bike to get here. It only took me 35 minutes. And I'm like, excuse me? Oh yeah, we're not going to have any cars on the road unless they're self-driving, so just get used to it. And I'm like, I didn't sign up for that. You're not representing me. We even had another House rep that we helped train. We helped get him elected. And he turned around and he came back and was like, we're going to do this globalist agenda. You're going to have individual little helicopters circling so that we people can go from point A to point B in these electric helicopters. What? Like, what agenda are you talking about? I thought you were passing a church in my county. How is it that now that you've submitted yourself to the globalist agenda? You're supposed to be protecting me and my sovereignty. That is not what you're doing.
Money's good when it's good, right? So how did they get there? Now,
This is back on.
oh, it is. Hey.
Yep.
So the entire idea of a 15-minute city, well, you hear enough about that, people get a little weary. So they had to figure out how to make it palatable. So I'm going to go down the road that Juliana mentioned and how we got to a vote in our city, and they all agreed to this. So you guys see these communities going up, these Cracker Jack box apartment complexes that have stores on the bottom, prison units on the top, and then maybe a pool at the very top. You know how they brand them? Thank you very much.
Exactly.
Live, work, play. Do you guys know where that came from? In the Soviet Union, when you lived in your place and you walked out of your apartment, there were signs that told you where to live, work, and play. Whoa, RC, stop. I know. So you guys understand, symbolism is important. They just retread the same tire because they know people aren't paying attention because they've taught us to test and not to think. Ooh, that's why young people are down with this. Why would I want to drive anywhere? It's too much work, right? The helicopter thing in New York City sounds attractive, but it's not, I promise. Okay, so 15-minute city is a little bit scary. Here's what they did, and here's what passed in our city, Altamont Springs, which is just northwest of Orlando. Altamont Springs became a Vision Zero city. The Vision...
When you choose Patriot Mobile, you're not just picking a wireless provider. You're choosing a company that shares your values. It's easy to switch, and you can keep your number, your phone, and most importantly, your values. With Patriot Mobile, you get the power of nationwide coverage on all 3 major networks. That means wherever life takes you, we've got you covered on the same reliable networks you already know and trust. And when you need us, we're here for you right here at home. Our customer service is 100% US-based because we believe that support should come from people who understand you and your values. At Patriot Mobile, you're not just another call, you're a priority. In today's world, where you spend your money matters more than ever, every dollar is a vote for the kind of future you want to build. Join the thousands of Americans making a difference with every call, every text, and every connection. Choose a company that shares your values. Choose Patriot Mobile.
Zero plan, which is all over the place. It's probably here too. Like they've spread like roaches. Vision Zero purports that by 2040 there will be no traffic accidents. Would you like to know why? No, it's even worse than that. They have to get you to capitulate first. It is because traffic is racist.
So they're using the same baloney stuff in Florida as they are in New York. As a matter of fact, when they wanted to have that tax if you go into Manhattan, do you know that Orlando put up signs and was like, well, based on congestion, the price of this toll road may be more than what we're posting here. And we're like, so in solidarity, you're going to support the shenanigans that's happening in Manhattan? I was just like, what? After a week, they took it down because all of us were like, no, we're not New York, we're Florida, and you can't do that to us.
So you guys understand what happened to you up here was because traffic congestion is systemically unjust. Did you guys hear that in your own news? Did you hear what they said? Yeah. It is systemically unjust, which means that it's a social justice issue. Abortion, they would tell you, is not a medical issue, it is a freedom issue. My body, my choice, which is what we used during COVID. You're not sticking me with that thing, my body, my choice. Yeah, suck on that one. Okay, so they got, the Vision Zero plan says traffic is racist because traffic cameras are systemically unjust. They're in the wrong neighborhoods, therefore they should be in all neighborhoods. And that makes traffic, because the people that get pulled over are proportionally more poor than others. And our plan for Vision Zero is just going to eliminate all that by equaling the playing field so that nobody has one. Nobody has a car.
Note the fact that they started this before 2020. Here's the evidence of that. How many of us were locked down and then when we came out, all of a sudden these big towers were out there? All those 5G towers. They did that under the cover of night because we never would have allowed that. If you're in the military, you know that those towers are weapons, and they are all over our streets.
The issue of transit usage was not about infrastructure. It's about convenience and control. Our city manager in Altamont Springs, Frank Martz, was quoted saying that. Okay? Convenience and control. There's on your screen, there's the request for approval from our city, from our minutes.
Literally, they started Uber. They launched Uber in my neighborhood, in my city of Altamont Springs, little Altamont Springs. Because the Altamont Springs manager said to us, literally, in his office, it was just the three of us, DeSantis's people are working with my people, and I'm working with the globalists. I go to the big meetings, so I get what I need to be doing, and I bring it down to all the people and say, here's their agenda, and this is what we're going to do. And I'm like, so you're manipulating DeSantis's people? And guess what? DeSantis is a total turncoat. And we see exactly what he's doing, right? We're in big trouble in Florida. Everyone, the whole country's going, oh, Florida's doing really, really well. No, we're not at all. They want you to believe that. Somebody was telling me that they brought down the scoring system for kids so people would think that Florida was like #1 in education. But like an F is like 40% or something like that.
I've done that a long time ago.
So it's a lie. And that's the reason why y'all are here, because we want you to understand this is what they're saying, the lie, but behind the scenes, this is what they're really doing, and this is their intentions and why they're doing what they're doing.
If I could quickly, so we got the screen back up. If you look up on the screen here, that headline says, new resource, fair warnings, recommendations to promote equity in speed safety camera programs. This comes from the Vision Zero site. You guys thought I was joking, right? Let me continue quickly here, as we're going to land the plane. Before you laugh it off, please understand the entire idea of programs like this, which line up perfectly with DEI, is specifically designed to deter you from speaking based on common sense. I.e., this doesn't work is met with, you're a racist, to get you to conform. The core of the Vision Zero program appears to come down to speed, as in getting you to drive as slowly as possible, which would make it a pain to drive, which then moves you in the exact direction that totalitarians want you to go in, which is not driving. Causes of things, they shape behavior, they shift it, they cut us off education-wise. We're no longer critical. We've been trained to test. Therefore, we don't think. You know what that means? You end up with foolishness like this. Because traffic is racist. So here's the goal. And by the way, Altamont Springs, you know how they test wastewater for COVID? Pilot City, Altamont Springs, Florida. Yeah, sorry, guys. Yeah. So the way they were able to figure out the cases of COVID is they tested the wastewater. That started in Altamont Springs. We were the first city in the country to do that, and then it spread like wildfire.
Again, because of the manager.
Altamont Springs has about 60,000 people. Okay? Do you know that the city of Altamont Springs will do 500,000 autonomous rides this year? Little buses around our mall that have no driver?
They did 10,000 last year. He said it's going to go 10 times greater, and then next year it's going to be even greater, until eventually they take away the cars, and we can't drive anymore. My girlfriend, who is the head of the U.S. Christian Chamber, was like, oh, I just took my first Uber with no driver. And I was like, I would have got, first of all, I can't get in the car because the radioactive waves, I get nauseous beyond nauseous. When I drive past those towers, every cell in my body starts tweaking really badly. Like I can feel that I'm being radioactive. I can't get in those cars.
Yeah. So ultimately, by 2040, no more cars in Altamont Springs or anywhere else for that matter, which then necessitates all of those Cracker Jack boxes that you see popping up where you can live, work, and play all within the same place without the need to move, without the need for a car, which that pesky cash then becomes a problem. So why don't you just use digital currency? They've already trained us with cards.
Yep.
We're already halfway down the road. Let's just let the government handle it because the banks aren't safe.
I got you.
Before you know it, and we're going to come to questions, before you know it, you're living in a one-world government with a one-world religion where all the methods of freedom are now controlled and there are significantly less of you to fight. Friends, before we go to questions,
The mic next to me.
the reason that you guys are in this room is because as leaders, you needed to hear this.
Yep.
You needed to understand the causes of things.
But like good stewards, we didn't just come with the problem, we came with the solution. Okay? Because Father told us that we need to be able to take care of our brothers and sisters. The reason why we wrote the Watchmen Action workbook is literally to get the church mobilized based on what your interest is and what you want to advocate for. So real quick, section 1 of the book is, what do you want to advocate for and what's your story, so that you can write the story so other people can pick up what it is that you're saying and why you're advocating for what you're advocating for. Part 2 is, how do you build a strategy? Who's sitting around the table? We do a SWOT analysis for those of you who are in business, this entire business book, to figure out exactly how you're going to start advocating for what's important to you in your community. Part 3 is, now that you have your system, what tools do you need? Who needs to do what? How do you make sure, if you've got a team of 8 people that are working on a project, how do you make sure that all 8 people are doing what they need to do? And you're moving the agenda forward, because one person can drop the ball and it messes up everybody on the team, right? So it's we're not telling you what to do in your community. We're telling you, pick up something that you want to advocate for. We wrote a workbook specifically for you to be able to sit down with the right people that you want to be able to advocate for whatever, and be able to build out the plan of how to get that done, right? Like I said before, when Jesus was walking the planet, the government didn't take care of the people. The people took care of the people. We've been disempowered. Well, guess what? The reason why you're here is to be re-empowered. It's for us to be able to pour into you to say, you know what, we've got a system. We have a way of being able to push back and say, we're not going to tolerate the culture that you're bringing in. But it starts with us, the ones that are behind the pulpits, because we abdicated our role and our responsibility. Father said to take territory. We ceded territory. When I've got a hospital a couple of miles from my house and they're chemically castrating little boys, I'm sorry, I need to step in, because Father's not going to go, that's okay, let them do that to a 5-year-old. Yeah. If the parents are too stupid and the government is allowing it, parents are taking kids to, drag queen hour. What do you think Father's thinking about that? You're harming the little children. Our responsibility is to protect the little children. It goes back to why I always talk about the Watchmen, why I always go back to Ezekiel 33:6, because y'all are watchmen.
Was it the same thing as last time? Instead of driving 40 minutes to find out, she ordered the test to her door and did it at home. She had real answers before the week was out. No waiting room, no half day gone. 360phi.com.
And everybody that you meet. Because I'm not going to survive this, we're not going to survive this unless we, the body of Christ, come together and push back on this agenda. The church used to be the center of the community, the center of the family. We need to be back to being the church.
Come on.
Act like the church. I am the daughter of a great king. There's only two teams, his team and the other person's team. I'm on his team. If I don't stand in the gap, right, we are all called to stand in the gap. If I'm not standing in the gap for the little 5-year-old that's being chemically castrated, who's going to do it?
Amen. Whew. So what can you do? Juliana mentioned it. There's the summarized version of it. And as we go to questions, people often ask us, okay, guys, so that's awesome and everything. How do I find more about you? That's how you do it. So that QR code will take you to a list of things, including the newsletters. You can go to watchmenaction.org to get that. Thank you guys so much for having us. We do have time for questions, but God bless each and every one of you. Thank you. Thank you for answering the call. Thank you. Microphone, please.
Regarding the 15-minute cities,
Yes, sir.
What research have you done on the scooters? Because these scooters terrorized our sidewalks. Not only scooters now, the scooters have then opened it up for motorcycles driven down our sidewalks.
Correct. We saw that too.
Orlando's trying to get rid of the scooters because they were more of an issue than a help. You know, they were finding the scooters in the water and stuff like that. So that program is failing. It's not working. You know,
Behind it, though, have you come across
the federal government, the government. I mean,
Yeah, so the government, if you guys don't know, NQTEL is basically the CIA. They're one of the biggest investors in technology in the United States. Palantir got their initial funding from NQTEL, which is the CIA. So what Juliana was mentioning is these scooters, we have a bunch of lakes around Orlando. People were just throwing them in the lake. And they were stacking in the lake, right? But there's something even more nefarious there. What Pastor Perry mentioned is really important. What research have you done about these scooters? They're terrorizing us, causes of things, by design.
Yeah, I think so.
They're trying to break your will. You guys understand? They want you to be scared.
yep.
And if it's okay for a scooter, then it's okay for a motorcycle. Until, of course, one of them gets clotheslined by somebody, then everybody's going to stop. Oh, I shouldn't do that. But you guys see what happens when you want to get to the goal of a one world government and you want to condition and train people, and kids are trained to test and not to think. Monkey see, monkey do.
So I just want to say their agenda is not working. One of the bean counters of transportation in Orlando said, for the price that we pay for the bus system, everybody could have taken an Uber instead. Okay? So we need to continue pushing back because their agenda is not working. They want us to believe it's working, okay? And we're seceding, we're allowing it to happen, but all we have to do is stand. Father said stand. Do all that you can, and when you can't do anymore, stand. We have to stand in the gap because they're doing it. If we're standing in the gap and we're pushing back on their agenda, then we can bring in our agenda. Like I said, our streets, the homelessness, everything that you see is by design. It's not like we don't have the money or the resources to be able to help our brothers and sisters. We do.
Amen.
This government is just not doing it.
Steph, go ahead.
Hi, everybody. I'm Stephanie. My question to you is, as a candidate last year, I met a lot of people, senior citizens especially, that are Jehovah's Witnesses. There are millions across New York State who do not come out to vote because Jehovah's Witness says, do not get involved with politics. Is there something in your workbook that helps guide us as stewards of our communities to approach
Stephanie, great question. We've ran into some of that too. And what's interesting is that Jehovah's Witnesses purport to stand on things of justice. And it is always interesting to me in context when I say, well, wait a minute. Your fundamental beliefs actually compel you to be engaged, because then how do you bring forth what you purport to believe if you're not engaged? And then they have that moment where they're like, everything I've learned in my entire life has just been turned upside down. That is the point, right? What did Donald Trump do exceedingly well? He got a bunch of people who don't agree on much of anything to get together long enough to agree on enough things to get him elected. That formula works, guys. And I mentioned this yesterday to a smaller group. I said, you also have to understand that the average reading level in the United States is about 7th or 8th grade. Now I want you to go back and think about every speech Donald Trump has ever given and how he does it. What happened? So, Stephanie, to your point, you often have to remind people of what they believe because you know it better than they do. That's what we've been empowered with and entrusted with in the kingdom, is to help them and to educate them. I hope that helped. Got time for a couple more?
Go ahead.
Go ahead, ma'am.
My name's Jeannie.
Hi, Jeannie.
Hi. One of the silly questions is, because I live in Astoria, and that's a big breeding ground for this 15-minute city.
Ah, yes.
So getting rid of traffic, yet they want to have driverless Ubers. Wouldn't that just be kind of counter? How is that going to decrease traffic congestion, per se? If you're getting rid of cars, and then you're putting these self-driverless Ubers, unless it's part of a depopulation plan.
I would say look at all the different things that they're doing. Driverless cars, 15-minute cities, digital ID, digital currency. When you start adding A plus B plus C, right? You start really seeing their agenda. So don't look at just one thing. Look at all the different things that they're doing, because it's going to tell you a story. My degree is in forensic psychology. People go, oh, forensics, it's about crime scenes. No, it's about storytelling. Forensics is storytelling. So when you have the different points of the story, right, that's why we went through all the different articles that we've written. Because unless you're fully informed about all the different things, your conclusion is going to be incorrect. You need all the information for you to go, aha, now I can see exactly what they're doing.
Anyone
Did you have a
else?
question, Marshall? No?
Oh, yes, ma'am. Right here.
My name is Sasha, everyone. How are you? How do we feel about the direction that Trump is moving us in? Because, you have this conversation with certain groups, like Marshall said, and it's like, well, he's a lot better than Kamala. We're not having that conversation. Kamala and Biden, we're not even, they were never on the table.
Right.
We're dealing with what we're dealing with. And so there's all this seemingly good stuff, but these are the buzzy headline stuff that everyone is like so attracted to, the LGB and away from the kids, leave the kids alone. But then our sovereignty and this biometric ID. So you have Christie known promoting real ID
Oh boy.
and scaling people, like you're not going to be able to travel, but you can still travel. If you have a passport, like you've been traveling with a passport.
Causes of things. Yeah.
So this is Trump's administration pushing us to this surveillance state. So he's moving us in the direction, but it's him, not Biden.
So Sasha, is a good question. I'll answer it as quickly as I can. And this is going to be unpopular with some people, and I don't particularly care because the boss says so, right? You have to understand that the result of what you see is because of the deification of a man and a movement before the Father.
So they can't see. They become blinded.
It's a spiritual issue, as Apostle Vega always says. First in the spirit, then in the natural. Because we lose the battle in the spirit, the natural works and looks the way that it does. How do we stop it? Well, you stop deifying a man and a movement, and you look at government as a whole. Now, what's happened to President Trump, unfortunately, is that the firewall that's come up around him, a lot of that information's not getting in. Right? It happened at the end of the first administration because they finally figured him out. It took them a minute to figure out this wild horse, and they figured out that he prefers to be hands-off with good people. Well, once that happens, you can prop up whoever you want as a good person, and it'll be like, do you like that person? Yeah, okay, we're good. So the people in his inner circle are making bad decisions, which makes his outer circle bad decisions. If people spent 5 minutes on Kristi Noem, she wouldn't have gotten anywhere near DHS because of what she did in South Dakota.
What about his chief, the Wiles lady? She's a big pharma.
So Susie Wiles is another interesting case. She's like the silent hand If you've never heard the story of Doug Coe and the National Prayer Breakfast, that's an effect. Okay, so she's that type of person. She's that silent hand in the background that's moving things, but she also keeps a very tight rein. You can't get in to see Trump. It is incredibly difficult to do so. And when you do, the information is filtered. Guys, that's a problem.
Yep.
And that's part of the apparatus. So what should we be focused on? As Apostle Vega said yesterday, we need to fight in the spirit first.
Yep.
In the proper way.
Yep.
Repentance, humility.
Yep.
Use me as a
Most of us have something we have been quietly managing, hoping it resolves, telling ourselves we will deal with it next week. Board-certified providers are available today from your home, private, thorough, and licensed in your state. Stop putting it off. 360phi.com.
He had a good night. And then, a morning thought he couldn't shake. Opened his phone, answered some questions, had a provider review it. Whatever he was worried about, he handled it. No office, no awkward waiting room, just done. 360phi.com. Your phone, your business.
Most growing businesses are making seven-figure decisions on gut feel and assumptions. The biggest companies in the world don't operate that way. Neither should you. Sherloc gives you market intelligence they pay six figures for. We find your buyers before your competitors do. Visit investinanswers.com to learn more. He had a good business, solid product, good people. He just couldn't figure out why growth had stalled. Sherloc found the buyers he didn't know were looking. Now he knows exactly where to go next. Learn more at investinanswers.com.
willing vessel. Open the eyes and heart of President Trump. Let him see this. Let him hear this.
Because he's either ignorant or he's complicit. Or deceived. Any way you cut that cake, he's still responsible. It's not an excuse.
But this, so I'm going to land the plane on Sasha's question. This all comes back to us.
Yes, it does.
We can change it.
Yep.
Right now. We can do it. You have to be willing to understand the causes of things, go through the process, understand how they're coming at you, so you can triangulate. Once they know that you have that part figured out, they'll scurry like roaches when you turn the light on, I promise.
Oh, yeah.
She had a question.
One more. We'll do one more because we're over time.
Okay.
Go ahead, please.
Yeah, hi. So as far as the currency is concerned, what do you suggest? Do we go and buy XRP? Do we go into gold and silver? What do we do?
All of the above. Diversify. Bullets, guns, Rolex watches, gold back, XRP, all different types of cryptocurrencies. Be diversified because you don't know how your neighbor is going to want to do commerce with you. So make sure you have the ability to do commerce in whatever denominations you have.
And quickly on that, because this is important. When something bad happens, all economies instantly become local. Your 10-block radius is the most critical part of your life. You may not realize it because we're a connected world. Be thinking economically about how your home and your community are going to do things with each other. You could very simply use gold backs. That's a very easy step, or whatever else you choose to do. Trade and barter, farmer's market. Lay those things in now and normalize that behavior so that when something bad happens, people don't go into shock.
We literally tell people, you need to knock on your neighbor's doors. You need to know who's in your 10-block radius. You need to know who's got the beef, who's got the chicken eggs, who's got the fruit, who's got the veggies, who knows carpentry, who knows how to take care of cars. You need to know your neighbors.
And on that note, you have the ability to help shape the biblical worldview and the moral compass of that community.
That's right.
All right. Marshall, sorry, go ahead.
Yes, I'm sorry, last question. So what is the posture and position of the pastors and faith leaders here in New York during this time and during this hour? I'm just saying, I'm talking about, we talk about the real people. We're not talking about these faith
Lord help me.
leaders, laying hands, anointed devils. We're not talking about that. Come on, let's just tell them. So what is the posture and the position of the faith leaders and the pastors to be that firewall to protect God's sheep?
Did you guys get something out of what we shared with you today?
Yes. Yes.
tell this story in the way that only you know how to tell it. Because you could say, I saw these great speakers from Florida, they're going to tune out right away. What do they know about New York? What do they know about my borough? What do they know about my neighborhood? Tell those clowns to go home. I'm married to a New Yorker. I know how it works. So, but in reality, I love you. But I know, right? But in reality, guys, you take what you learned here and you talk to people the way only you can, and you move them. Back to Stephanie's question about Jehovah's Witnesses. You have it in you because you've been given that with the indwelling of the Holy Ghost. When you allow him to do what he needs to do, he'll walk you through that. But it's got to come from you because they trust you, not us. You got to go one block at a time, 1 inch at a time, one person at a time, and convey that message. I promise you guys, we've trained enough times and talked to enough people. When you do that the right way, you will see not only the person you talk to move, the next time they come, they'll have 10 people with them. Come and see.
And for the body of Christ, I just want to say, Father keeps telling me to tell his people, if he gave you a gift of prophecy, evangelism, teaching, if you're a watchman, he is judging us. You cannot do to his people, to his children, to the elderly. You can't do that and not think that Father is not going to judge us. Okay? We're all awake. So I always say that as watchmen, the minute I tell you something, you are now responsible to say, you know, this RC and Juliana chick showed up, and they were talking about body oils and bonus holes and, you know, the war on women. Because you want to know something? You know what's going on because we told you. We're a market research company. We're telling you the truth of what's happening. Most have no idea. They don't know about the CBDC. They don't know about 15-minute cities. They're not involved politically. They are so completely ignorant. And you have to be willfully ignorant at this point. So are you just not smart enough to figure out what's going on? But we, the people that are awake and are watchmen, it's our responsibility to go, let's thunk our brothers and sisters on the head and be like, y'all really need to wake up and know what's happening.
Amen. Brothers and sisters, the land is fertile. It's waiting on us. Thank you guys so much. God bless each and every one of you. Thank you.
Dear Heavenly Father, I thank you so much for our time together this evening, and thank you that we get to gather freely without any concern or the government coming in trying to stop us this evening. I thank you that we live in a country where we can worship freely, where we can proclaim the name of Jesus. We just thank you so much for organizations like Florida Citizens Alliance that are doing so many good things in the state of Florida. We thank you for this country. We thank you for our president. And God bless America. In Jesus' name, everybody said, amen.
If you all turn around, we have a flag. There behind us. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, Number two, you just saw.
Before I forget, before we go any further, all of you got at least one card like this. You came in. If you didn't, we have many more. We have another one. But what this is for is we have a question for our candidates tonight. That's why I want to get this right up front. We want your questions. We have moderators who have questions. Some of us with lots of questions. We want yours. So if you have a question already written on the card, we've got people that are going to come and select them right now. We can begin that process and we can make sure we get as many of your questions as possible. Not required, we're going to have the opportunity. So on your mark and set, go. Give us your question. All right.
Let's get all the questions.
For you to know that we sponsor these forums as a way to have civil conversations about the important issues of our time. There are ways people try to find out about it. We have discovered that this is one of the best. We just sit down, we give you a chance to ask questions, we give candidates plenty of time to explain their positions on things, and we call the forum. It's not a debate. All right? That's a little different. We just want to have a conversation and keep it on the high road. However, if the candidate happens to call the other candidate by name, we do give them a chance to respond. All right? But primarily, this is for your candidate to make their case and to answer your questions. Now, make sure you understand this is a nonpartisan affair. We have invited many candidates. You can see the name tags up here. We're glad to help have a seminar.
Most of us have something we have been quietly managing, hoping it resolves, telling ourselves we will deal with it next week. Board-certified providers are available today from your home, private, thorough, and licensed in your state. Stop putting it off. 360phi.com.
She knew something was off the moment she woke up and didn't want to deal with the health center. She opened her phone, answered a few questions, and had a prescription ready before her roommate even got up, handled from her room. 360phi.com. Real care. No waiting room.
He had a good night. And then, a morning thought he couldn't shake. Opened his phone, answered some questions, had a provider review it. Whatever he was worried about, he handled it. No office, no awkward waiting room, just done. 360phi.com. Your phone, your business.
Presentation, some did not. We invited Republicans, we invited Democrats, we invited many candidates that seem to have a viable path to the election. So that's why we're here tonight, is to give you that idea. We think you'll like some answers. We think you won't like others. But in the same way we ask the candidates to be civil, we're asking you to be civil. Now, you might have a bone or a crone now and then, but let's keep it to that, okay? We have moderators, they're going to give us directions through the course of the event. Remember, we want your questions. You may think of a question, and at any moment, raise your hand, jump up and no, maybe not. But let us know, and we'll collect your comments. So thank you for coming and welcome. This is going to be a great evening. I'm going to give you this microphone to the moderators, and they are going to lead us through an educational and informative and an interesting evening together.
Thank you, Pastor Rick Stevens. My name is Ryan Kennedy. I'm the Chief of Operations here at the Florida Citizens Alliance FLC Action. And I have my other co-moderator. I'll let him introduce himself now, and I'll explain this.
Good evening. Thank you all for being here. My name is R.C. Williams. I'm co-founder along with Juliana Ormond of Sherloc Research and Behavioral Marketing. Also Watchmen Action, a ministry focused on equipping the church to engage the culture. It's wonderful to be in civic dialogue tonight for a potential future governor of the state of Florida.
So the rules are as follows. Each candidate will get a 2-minute opening and a 2-minute closing. They will both get 2 minutes each to respond to your questions or to the questions we ask. And as Pastor Rick said, if a candidate on the stage is mentioned, they will get 30 seconds to respond. And we do reserve the right as moderators to ask for additional information if we need to with additional time if a question isn't answered. So that's just something I'll say up front. We hope to take a number of questions. Our rules are we try to do at least 50% of the questions from the audience. So, we will be asking your questions tonight.
Yeah. So a note for the candidates and those in the audience, you'll notice that we have a timekeeper down front. So hello, timekeeper, can you raise up one of the cards? Great. So you'll see your timers. I believe that green is 1 minute. Is that correct?
Green is, you still
Green
have,
is you're good.
Yep. Yellow is 30
Yellow is 30 seconds and red is you're done. We ask for you to respect those times. We will cut you off if you go over.
Okay. So first, I'm going to go based on alphabetical order. So Mr. James Fishback, you have your chance to do your opening.
Thank you very much, Ryan, RC, Speaker Winner. Thank you so much for coming this evening. This is a race that is not about different men. It's about two different, radically different visions that our state can go. I'm going to tell you up front right now, if Ron DeSantis could run for a third term, I would not be on this stage because Ron DeSantis is the greatest governor of Florida. Maybe to speak for both Speaker Renner and I, when we say the next governor of this state must preserve the incredible conservative wins that Ron DeSantis, the First Lady, gives us. Yet to preserve those wins, and when we do that, we can then begin to build on that. What do we mean by build on those wins? Well, we actually mean quite the opposite. We mean stop the irresponsible, reckless building and development. Florida is full. Since COVID, Florida has welcomed 800,000 people from all over the country. Housing inflation, housing shortages, skyrocketing property tax, property insurance, auto insurance, HOA, condominiums, your light bill, everything is out of this world expensive. And the trajectory, it's not going to get any better. From AI data centers taking your water and your electric bill, to H-1Bs, cheap foreign labor from India and China taking your job, your kid's job, or your grandkid's job. The threats are real. It is now time for a leader to step up. A leader to step up in the same way that our founding fathers stepped up 250 years ago and said 3 words: enough is enough. I am running to be the next governor of Florida as a 4th-generation Floridian because I believe that Florida is our home. America is our birthright. And no one should ever be able to steal that from us. Thank you very much.
Speaker Renner.
Thank you. I remember 2018 looking at the election results and not knowing on the stance, governor, and yellow. And so why that matters is we have to have someone ready for leadership on day one. And so the reason why I should be the next governor is a lifetime of leadership under pressure, 20 years in the military. I served in 2 wars, leading men and women to defend our country. As a prosecutor, trying habitual and violent habitual offenders, as an owner of a business, partner in another business, and also as someone who's shown up and actually delivered results. We have too many politicians, including Republicans, who get into office and all they do is they self-promote, they get rich, they have fun, and they forget about we, the people, and they need to come home. We do not need to get them to talk. Additionally, someone who has a bold vision, because I have a vision to be prepared. We have plans online to eliminate homestead property taxes, to say a hard no to any AI data centers in the state. To push back against the red and green threat of China and Islam in our state, will not let it get foothold in our state. We have plans for health, freedom, and wellness, to stop sex trafficking. And finally, it comes down to who shows up to fight for that everyday race again. Whether that was school races in 22 and 24, not the governor's job description, not mine, but I participated, contributed money we had raised into that and made sure that we got the wokeness out of our schools. We put common sense conservatives in charge of our school districts. And additionally, Amendment 3 and 4, out-of-state billionaires who want to jam their agenda into our state constitution, not going to happen by government. Again, not this governor's job description or mine. I went out and traveled the state with this governor, wrote on it, raised and donated over $2 million, especially Amendment 4, to stop abortion being a destination state here in Florida, to stop recreational pot. You need somebody who's going to show up and beat them whenever they come back, because they are coming back. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. So we're going to ask the first question, and since Mr. Fishback started his opening, I'm going to go to Speaker Paul Renner first. Same question to both of you, but would you support legislation like the AI bill writes in Florida if you're elected governor? And explain how, if you want changes to it, what you would like to do. Yes, Speaker Renner.
Absolutely. It was shameful. I left the Speaker of the House in the legislature in 2024. My successor has been a trainer, say out loud in public. He shot down not only the rights, but also the great freedom bill that was in front of the legislature last week in the special session. Did the same thing during the regular session. I like the Bill of Rights. Here's the difference, guys. This is why this is so important. If a parent faces a child who is depressed and suicidal, they would stop everything they're doing to make sure that never happens. That's same child asking AI. AI will give you 10 ways to take your own life. That's why this issue is so critically important. And as Speaker of the House, I fought against online pornography, social media platforms. I understand the threat. I understand the big tech does not care about our children. I know how to bring the fight with them and beat them, because I've already done that once before. To add you to your question, Ryan, is yes, I think the bill can go farther. I want to see an opt-in for parents, not an opt-out, an opt-in, and have to affirmatively decide if you want AI. I don't think AI should be involved in replacing our teachers or teaching our children in any way, shape, or form for the reasons I just mentioned. And also, I want to make sure that the data is anonymous. Social media steals, and without our knowledge and consent, our children's personal information. They cannot have that information. And that AI chat, again, I'm opposed to being in the first place, if it's going to happen, cannot come along with that child. AI can never be a substitute mom or dad, or God, or because it is soulless, it has no moral agency, it has no moral compass. So it's important that we protect ourselves from AI. And the fundamental thing is with technology like everything else, human beings have to be in control.
She knew something was off the moment she woke up and didn't want to deal with the health center.
Technology, not the technology in control of human beings, period.
Thank you, Speaker Renner. Mr. Fishback.
Well, thank you. We have to start with one universal truth, which is that parents raise their children, not the government, not teachers, not Drag Queen Story Hour, not ChatGPT. And so when we accept that, we have to, as I agree with Speaker Renner, there has to be an opt-in. If you're a 9 or 10-year-old and you want to join Claude, ChatGPT, or Grok, you have to get affirmative consent from your parents to be able to do that. Why is this such a big issue? Because as Speaker Renner touched on, there are already documented cases of young men and women developing relationships with their AI, relationships that say, I want to see you, I want to see you, kill yourself, here's how you can do it. This is real, this is not hypothetical. And so the internet, we saw the double-edged sword. The same internet that gave us Google Maps, that gave us Wikipedia, also gave us child pornography, also gave us a place for people to buy and sell drugs called Silver. AI is no different. Clearly, there are benefits to AI. Clearly, there's a way for AI to superpower education to help tailor personal, individual education plans. But I am firmly on board with an AI bill of rights because children are our most precious things in this world. And we cannot let anything, whether it's a corporation or a nation, whether it's a tech billionaire or not, we must stand up to that. The best way to know that AI is a threat is that Mark Zuckerberg, the CEO of Facebook, the guy pushing AI on their kids, doesn't let his kids use AI. I'm going to get biblical for a second. Judge them by their fruits. That's what this is about. And you, when we look at those 10 commandments, and we say, honor thy mother and father, it is a mom and a dad in the flesh, not an AI chatbot telling your child how to live. We said hell no to the drag queen and story hour. We said hell no to the guidance counselor trying to transition your
Thank you, gentlemen. Speaker Renner, you touched on something in your answer that I want to continue. You mentioned that Speaker Perez and the gridlock. So I think many in this audience ended up very frustrated at the end of the last legislative session. It seems like almost nothing got done. Speaker Renner, I'll come to you first, then we'll go to Mr. Fishback. You step into the governor's office. How do we avoid having a session ever again like the one that we had this past year?
Well, first of all, I think that every candidate owes you an answer to that question. You have two here that have given you an answer. You have a conspicuous absence of candidates with the name tags that have no one seated at them. And I called for, if you want to lead the free state of Florida, you should tell parents and kids, do you wish to protect them from technology? Or are you going to be bought and paid for by that technology and do whatever they tell you to do? I think you're owed that, don't you? I'm disappointed that we don't have some of the other candidates here today, but to answer your question, RC, is as a military guy, we've been criticizing in private, praising in public. You bring these guys in, and I know the good news is like the English weather. If you don't like your speaker or your president, just wait a few hours, just wait a couple of years, and they'll change. And so this speaker will be out after this session, special session, another special session ends. And we'll have two other guys coming in, Sam Garrison and Jim Boyd, who I know well, and I believe I can work with well. And we're going to hit the ground running, coming out of the governor's race with a lot of political capital. We're going to hit the ground running, and you know, those 2 years we had, the governor said we're unmatched in any legislative session in any state in America. I'm a conservative. I'm there to get the job done and put conservative wins on the board, and that's what we're going to do. And if we get the same response, then I will tell you I will be coming to Naples and everywhere around the state to say it's time for one of you to step up and primary that incumbent, because we were not going to allow people again that get into office and all they think about is their next office. All they think about is self-promotion. All they think about is getting rich. All they think about is having fun, and they forget about the mission. You're there for a job. Do your job. And we see this year the difference that leadership makes when one speaker leaves and another speaker comes in. And so if it comes to that, I hope it doesn't come to that, I will first try to unite conservatives. We had a much more moderate member on the Senate side of things when I was speaker. You know her, she's from this area. And we had a decent relationship because I got a lot of conservative things done. So there's some things that she wanted done. We worked with the governor, and it all worked because we should not squander a supermajority in the legislature. We should be leading the country.
Thank you, Speaker Renner. Mr. Fishback, how do we stop the insanity that was the last session with gridlock? You step into the governor's office, how do we fix that?
Well, you step in and you do what President Reagan did best. You actually lead, yes, with a little bit of humor, yes, uniting your own party, but you also have to be willing to reach out a hand. You know, we say we have a supermajority in the Florida legislature. We're not seeing it if that's the kind of gridlock and infighting. We've got to get out of this mindset. We must disabuse ourselves of this notion that because someone says they're a Republican, they are our friend. Liz Cheney said she was a Republican and she backstabbed President Trump. So there are a lot of Republicans in Tallahassee who will say one thing to get elected, but do something entirely different. My job is to go in there as the Republican nominee, as the next governor, to build a coalition that works in common areas, but also calls people out. When there are egregious, hypocritical acts where Republicans said they were going to eliminate gun control, only to find out they won't do that when it comes to the floor of the legislature, they need to be called out mercilessly. And when they do come together, you have to praise them. On my way over here, I was in Boca last night and I stopped to visit the grave sites of my grandfather and my grandmother at Florida National Cemetery. And my grandmother always said, you've heard this, I'm sure, growing up, it's easier to attract bees with honey than with vinegar. Yes, I will call out mercilessly the backstabbing rhinos, but when Republicans and Democrats work together to deliver the common sense solutions that you send in Tallahassee to accomplish, I will praise them, even if they're not in my own party.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Mr. Fishback, I'm going to start with you first. These are from the audience. In the state of Florida, we have a great school choice program. In particular, we've had some questions here related to homeschooling, whether or not you support homeschooling in the state of Florida. And when it comes to the PEP program, scholarship program, how would you improve or change it? Starting with you first.
It is a great question. I look forward to meeting with the leadership of the Collier County School Board tomorrow. I'll be in the offices early to meet with them as I've met with school board members all over the state, but I also met with homeschool parents, those who have decided to pull their children out of school, not necessarily because it's failing generally, but it may be failing their child specifically. They're neurodivergent, they're especially passionate about cooking or music or history, and they want to homeschool. And so there's two big changes that I would make to the already great program that Governor DeSantis and First Lady DeSantis has given our state. The first thing I would say is if you pull your kids out of Collier County Public Schools, and Collier County Public Schools was going to spend $13,000 per student per year, you should get the full $13,000. Every single penny. Look, I'm not a political guy. I don't have any political experience. I'm a business guy. If you were going to spend $13,000 over here and you don't use that service, you can come over here and get the full amount. That's how we deliver real equality of school choice. Number two is a real frustration I've heard from homeschool parents is the homeschool marketplace. You don't have laptops on there. You have delays. That's a real problem. So what I would do is I would broaden that marketplace. I would make it easier for parents to have access to the tools that they need to educate and to motivate their children at home. I completely, unequivocally support the homeschool movement. And that begins with recognizing that if you're going to spend money, if you're going to give a kid a laptop at Golden Gate or at Immokalee, you give that kid as a homeschool student the same money, the same resources. I'm a free market capitalist. The best kind of competition is when our public schools have to compete, our private schools have to compete. I would say Optima would have to compete, but it's closed, and our homeschool parents can compete as well. And so I am 100% in the school choice movement. I would say that I'm pro-choice, but I'll tell you, life begins at conception.
Most growing businesses are making seven-figure decisions on gut feel and assumptions. The biggest companies in the world don't operate that way. Neither should you. Sherlock gives you market intelligence they pay six figures for. We find your buyers before your competitors do. Visit investinanswers.com to learn more.
She knew something was off the moment she woke up and didn't want to deal with the health center. She opened her phone, answered a few questions, and had a prescription ready before her roommate even got up, handled from her room. 360phi.com. Real care. No waiting room.
Most of us have something we have been quietly managing, hoping it resolves. telling ourselves we will deal with it next week. Board-certified providers are available today from your home. Private, thorough, and licensed in your state. Stop putting it off. 360phi.com. He had a good business, solid product, good people. He just couldn't figure out why growth had stalled. Sherloc found the buyers he didn't know were looking. Now he knows exactly where to go next. Learn more at investinanswers.com.
Well, thank you. You know, one of the things you get to do as speaker when you leave the Florida House is set up certain priorities. And mine in the first year was HB1, which was the Universal School Choice Scholarship. So that started with yours truly, as did the PEP program. My question to my staff is, what about homeschool parents? Why can't we have something for them as well? And so the scholarship is basically the state portion of education funding. And what James described is that difference in some federal funding, local options, that our choice students do not receive. I do believe that the money should always follow the student. Just like I believe in healthcare, the money should follow the patient. It's basic 101. And every business has an entrance and an exit, except for education. With the monopoly, we set up a Hotel California where you can enter, but you can never leave. And so with school choice now, every school also has an exit. If you do a good job, you go hit the entrance. If you do a bad job, people can and should hit the exits. And so that has made our public schools have to compete more and do a better job. And it's allowed for every parent to decide the best choice for their students on how they get their education. And it goes into another. You can be a homeschool kid and go one day a week to a charter school or a traditional public school in physics if you want. That's the beauty of school choice. It was my #1 priority in year 1, HB1, as Speaker of the House, and we are not only going to protect it, but continue to expand it. And it is making our education better. It's making all levels better, and we're going to continue down that path.
Thank you, Speaker Renner. Thank you, gentlemen. We're getting great questions from the audience. If you have them, make sure you have a piece of paper and let's get those in. Some great questions here tonight. So one from the audience from both of you. Mr. Fishback, I'll come to you first. If data centers are allowed in Florida, do you pledge to require them to produce their own electric power and water and not use the Floridians' resources? Mr. Fishback, you first, please.
Thank you. I'm a business guy, so everything I look at is through the lens of risk and reward. I'd be lying to you if I said there were not a reward to an AI data center. The #1 reward is you'll be able to generate that photo of Donald Trump in a bikini 5 seconds quicker. The risks to AI data centers are bigger than whether or not they generate their own electricity. The 500 acres that in Fort Meade in southern Polk County is now going to an AI data center, that can't be used for citrus, it can't be used for cattle, it can't be used to build a rural hospital to serve the 5,000 residents. And so I am a heck no on AI data centers across the board. I don't care if they have a nuclear power plant. I don't care. Now let's talk about how we accomplish that, and first why we should. An AI data center can use upwards of 500,000 gallons of water. Not every month, not every week, every single day. Speaker Renner knows this. We are living through the worst drought here in Florida in 26 years. Now is the worst time to be talking about these new sucking AI data centers. Your electric bills, those are going to go up more. Simple supply and demand. When more electricity demand comes onto the grid, we pay for it as a result. I say no to welfare queens who want lobster and steak on their food stamps, and I say no to Elon Musk and Mark Zuckerberg trying to have us pay for their electric bills. And allow me to explain the how. How do we accomplish this? How do we do it if there are county commissions all over the state that are tripping over themselves to approve these AI data centers? How do we accomplish it? We have to do what's called a state preemption. We have to preempt all of the authority for AI data centers away from greedy county commissions who will do anything for a quick buck and a Rolex, bring it to Tallahassee, and put in place an indefinite moratorium on AI data centers in every single Florida county.
Thank you, Mr. Fishback. Speaker Renner, what do you think?
I'm a hard no on AI data centers, and it will absolutely raise your electric bills. And as was just discussed, we had a historic drought, and they're going to come in and put a big pipe in the ground and suck out our aquifer. I don't think so. And so one of the candidates in this race, however, has said that Florida should lead in the construction of AI data centers. And I'm sorry that he's not here to get his 30 seconds, but he's also said that we have enough pristine land to use. Personally, I think that pristine land should stay in pristine use. How about that? When I was leading the legislature, we championed the Florida Wildlife Corridor, Everglades restoration, Springs restoration. I'm running a Florida First campaign, and that means all I care about is the people who have made their living and made their home here. And we are not going to let big tech come bum rush us to bring in these data centers that will absolutely, if you think we have an affordability problem now, it'll be my day one priority to bring down taxes, insurance, electric bills. We are not going to let AI data centers come in and jeopardize that, and they will absolutely do that. In Louisiana, there's a facility that literally draws more power than the entire city of New Orleans. And so depending on who you ask, it's the equivalent of 800,000 people in one hyperscale center, like the one that's proposed in Fort Meade. I will just say this, under my watch, Florida is not for sale. There's a big choice in this election. It's not from anybody on this stage. If we want to go the direction of muted bidding of big tech at the expense of everyone in this room, of every Florida citizen, or if we're going to stand up for Florida first and make sure that we return Florida to the affordable state it used to be so that people can grow up, the young people on the front row can grow up and have the same great state that I grew up in, and I'm committed to you to make sure that happens.
So, there were a few things brought up there, and I want to start with this. Many families and individuals are concerned about affordability and high costs in Florida. What will you as governor do to help these families? Mr. Paul Renner, Speaker Renner, you're first.
On affordability generally?
Affordability generally, yes.
Sure. So again, you need a vision, and every candidate owes you something in writing. So we put out our property tax proposal, which will eliminate homestead property taxes. We also eliminate taxes for small mom and pop businesses. We give some help to renters. And again, for first-time home buyers, not your first time you've owned 3 houses in New York, but you've never owned a home, you're a Florida resident. The replacement taxes we have to make up for some of that along with savings are 0 for first-time home buyers. So they will not pay that additional tax. They'll come in, pay no property taxes. Every 95% of Floridians at $1 million or below will not pay any property taxes going forward, period, full stop. So we'll take care of property taxes. We'll make sure to reduce insurance rates. And the Speaker, we had bold reforms to lower auto rates and also save our insurance market from collapse. We went after the trial lawyers. We went after the insurance companies. We said, how about we focus on the consumers? How about we focus on we the people to bring down costs and also hold our insurers accountable? I'll take that same mission focus and delivering results into continuing to bring down insurance, temporarily repealing the tax on homeowners insurance, My Safe Florida Home, which is home hardening programs, which can lower insurance by $1,000, and also some regulatory reform that can lower our insurance by 5 to 10% in year 1. We're also going to bring down electric rates, and I'll be talking about this tomorrow in a roundtable, but suffice to say that our utilities are pursuing the green new scam of these huge solar farms that you've seen them all over taking up our farmland, which is not the lowest possible cost to deliver electricity to your home. It's not domestically sourced, because who are we relying on for those panels? China. And for the batteries, China. And it's not reliable, because we see when we have a cold snap or a heat wave, the power goes off. And so we have to have electricity that is U.S. produced, reliable, and the lowest possible cost to you. That's 3 areas where we'll bring down cost. And again, part of that is not doing the wrong things by bringing in AI data centers.
how does life feel affordable? We're not asking about the vibe, we're not asking about your personal feelings. We want to make a 3-part objective test. Here we go. The first is, how many 30-year-olds are married and own their home? My dad was growing up in the 1960s in Fort Lauderdale. Half of 30-year-olds were married and owned their home. Today, that's less than 15%. That is a crisis. We have to make it easier for our young men and women to find God, to get married, and to have kids. Number 2, is life affordable? Here's the question. Can you still raise a family on a single income? My parents did. My parents' did. Now you would have to search all day to find a single person who could.
He had a good night. And then, a morning thought he couldn't shake. Opened his phone, answered some questions, had a provider review it. Whatever he was worried about, he handled it. No office, no awkward waiting room, just done. 360phi.com. Your phone, your business.
Most growing businesses are making 7-figure decisions on gut feel and assumptions. The biggest companies in the world don't operate that way. Neither should you. Sherlock gives you market intelligence they pay 6 figures for. We find your buyers before your competitors do. Visit investinanswers.com to learn more. He had a good business, solid product, good people. He just couldn't figure out why growth had stalled. Sherlock found the buyers he didn't know were looking. Now he knows exactly where to go next. Learn more at investinanswers.com.
Raise their kids on a single income. We have to make it affordable, yes, by tackling the root cause, which is high prices, but also make it easier for the man who works or the woman who works in the household to be able to get a great paying job. Quite literally, everything is unaffordable if you lose your job because it was given to a cheap foreign laborer from India or China. That's why I will end the H-1B scam once and for all. And then last, can our seniors afford to retire with dignity? I don't want our seniors to stare at the ceiling before they go to bed, wondering how they're going to pay their property tax, property insurance, auto insurance, HOA bill. We have to get to the bottom of it. And Speaker Redder touched on it. But the biggest scandal in the property tax space is that in the last 5 years, total statewide property tax revenue, the amount of money they're stealing from us in the last 5 years is up $20 billion. We don't need to roll back spending. We don't need to roll back spending to the 1990s. We need to roll back spending simply to 2020. And if we do that, we can eliminate property taxes for every single homesteaded resident in our state. That's all you have to do, and the math works out.
Thank you, Mr. Fischer. Gentlemen, my question is probably going to resonate with most people in this room because we're living it. My wife and I live outside of Orlando. This is an infrastructure question. And the sprawl of endless Cracker Jack box apartments showing up everywhere. When I left San Francisco in 2014, this is the exact thing that I got away from because I know what comes afterwards. In a state that grows and that is abundant, how do we balance the need for infrastructure while respecting the rights of the people who are already here? Mr. Fishback, I'll come to you first.
Florida is the best state in the country, but it cannot remain the best if the people who made it the best can no longer afford to live here. We are losing our way of life. Buy citrus groves, buy cattle ranchers, and welcome the 7th Dollar General to your zip code and whatever the heck a Five Below is. Bring another self-service car wash, a mini storage unit, or heaven forbid an AI data center. What are we doing here? My favorite president, Ronald Reagan, said, now is a time for choosing. I want to be very honest with you. If you want GDP, if you want investment to go up, 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 as it has over the last 10 years, an 85% increase in GDP, This is your guy right here, Byron Donalds. He wants to accelerate the development, accelerate the GDP of Florida. I'm not going to worship GDP. What I am going to focus on is preserving our way of life, creating great paying jobs. And you know what? That might mean saying no to a new urban development project. That might mean saying no to a massive Section 8 style housing development. That might mean saying no to tens or hundreds of millions of dollars in investment. My favorite economist is Thomas Sowell, and he said that politics is not about solutions. There is no one-size-fits-all solution that's going to make every single person happy. But politics is about trade-offs. Here is your choice. Do you want to preserve the Florida that we know and love for your kids and mine? Or do we want to make Mark Zuckerberg, George Soros, and Bill Gates rich? Do we want to preserve the Everglades, protect and expand the wildlife corridor, be able to tell our kids that they can still see a Florida panther out on 75 or on the drive up to Immokalee? Or do we want to make Lennar GL Homes in Blackstone rich? The choice is yours to make on August 18th, and I'd be honored to have your vote.
Mr. Fishback, thank you. Speaker Renner, same question. What do we do about infrastructure?
How many people are familiar with the book, A Land Remembered? Well, this election is about whether we continue A Land Remembered or, as was pointed out for Congressman Donald, A Land Forgotten. Because we have to make sure we put Florida first, and that means we can catch fish and eat the fish we catch. It means we don't develop our state parks. It means we take care of our natural resources. It means, I joke, if I could, I would build a wall and make Georgia pay for it. But of course we can't do that. But what we do in the property tax proposal is there's one group that pays a little bit more. And that's the way it should be. We're shifting that tax burden away from all the people in this audience who make their living in their home in Florida toward out-of-state investors, out-of-state private equity who have purchased over 100,000 homes, single-family homes, and turned them into rentals. Now what's wrong with that? Well, two things. Number one is all that money is being paid by Floridians and not a dollar drops into Collier County or any other county in the state. It's all sent out of our state. But the bigger problem is that's over 100,000 homes that none of you guys can ever buy. It artificially drives up the price of homes. So yes, those people will pay more under my property tax proposal. And that money that we have that goes into local governments and also our state government, we will invest in infrastructure, which I think your question was about. Because what we need in our leaders, and I did this when I was speaker, is start to make the investments today in a term limited world where I support term limits, but make investments today in our water supply, water quality, water treatment, our roads and bridges, our Everglades, our springs, our natural resources that you will never get credit for, that will make sure that this state is in a good spot 20, 30 years from now, when I'm in a recliner and my young kids are grown, I want to be able to look back and be proud that as governor, as your governor, I focused on Florida first and not what we could get with the wrong decision, which is who in the world was in charge that let this happen.
We have a few questions here about, and we touched on homeschooling, but about public schools. So what would you do to improve or reform the current education system here in Florida? And would you, and I'm going to lump this together, would you support, as one of these measures, reforming the school grading system to a roll-class system over a 3-year period, which means raising the scores to reflect an A as 90% in the school district? Thank you. I'm going to start with Mr. Fishback first.
If we can sum up the crisis in our public schools in one word, it is the crisis of accountability. The teacher who indoctrinates your child, who says that Thomas Jefferson is a racist and Cardi B is a role model, the one who spends more time talking about microaggressions and microbiology, only to find out that they are failing your son or daughter at a public school, they need to be fired. That is called accountability. As Jeb Bush would say, please clap. But here's the thing. My grandmother was a public school teacher. My own sister is a public school teacher. Most public school teachers that I know wake up early, stay late, dig into their own pockets to cover lunch money or school supplies for their students. In the world of business, the world that I come from, when someone does a good job, you want to incentivize them to stay. And the way to do it is by paying them more. Florida ranks dead last, 50 out of 50 nationwide in public school teacher pay. We don't want to pay the Marxist who's trying to indoctrinate your kid with Howard Zinn more, but we want to pay the teachers, the AP chemistry teacher at Golden Gate who shows up with fun, creative ways to teach students how to balance equations. We want to teach the AP US history teacher at Immokalee High School who makes history fun. We want to pay them more. One, they deserve it, but more importantly, your child, your grandchild deserves a great school. What makes our schools great, it's not the building, sure as heck not the solar panels on top of the building. It is the teachers. The number one driver of in-school performance is the teacher. The number one driver of a student performance out of school is the parent. The way we make public schools excellent is we pay our teachers more, we tie their bonuses to three things: test scores, parental evaluations, and student evaluations. You do well, you get paid more. And the way you succeed as a teacher is you bring parents back into the classroom. You help them help their children be the best versions of themselves.
We want to stay where everyone has a world-class education no matter where you go. My mom was a public school teacher. I went through public schools. That's all I ever went to. There wasn't no charter schools really, even private, didn't go to private schools. But that's your choice as a mom or dad as to where to send your children. As I mentioned before, I was the guy who championed universal school choice in education here in the state of Florida with HB1 that included for the first time homeschool parents. And of course, if you want to be a traditional homeschool parent, you don't want to take any government.
Most growing businesses are making seven-figure decisions on gut feel and assumptions. The biggest companies in the world don't operate that way. Neither should you. Sherloc gives you market intelligence they pay six figures for. We find your buyers before your competitors do. Visit investinanswers.com to learn more. He had a good business, solid product, good people. He just couldn't figure out why growth had stalled. Sherloc found the buyers he didn't know were looking. Now he knows exactly where to go next. Learn more at investinanswers.com.
She knew something was off the moment she woke up and didn't want to deal with the health center. She opened her phone, answered a few questions, and had a prescription ready before her roommate even got up, handled from her room. 360phi.com. Real care. No waiting room.
He had a good night. And then, a morning thought he couldn't shake. Opened his phone, answered some questions, had a provider review it. Whatever he was worried about, he handled it. No office, no awkward waiting room, just done.
That's okay too. As a governor, we're going to protect your right as inviolate because, again, parents have the primary role to raise and educate their children. It will always be that way when I'm governor. We have to continue to get the indoctrination out of our schools. It has not gone away. When I was Speaker of the House, we ended DEI programs in our universities, but guess what happened? So we defunded that, we got rid of them, we said it's illegal, you can't have it. So what do? They changed the name, they just burrow down deeper. We had, when I was on the board of governors, we had a guy who was interviewing for the Center for Latin American Studies at the University of Florida, and the interviewee, the person he was looking to hire, said, listen, we're violating the law, we're doing everything, we're breaking the law that Trump wants, we're breaking the law that DeSantis wants, what will you do to help us? That was the question on whether they would get a job at the University of Florida. And so it's going to require someone, and I know where the bodies are buried on education, because I spent a lot of time working on not only the K-12 but also the higher ed. And we're going to go after those guys, and if they can't just simply teach reading, math, science, civics in K-12, make a high school diploma matter again, then they need to be shown the door. And we do need to affirm our public school teachers. We did $1 billion in teacher salary increases during my time as Speaker, but they do need more. They do need to have better pay. But we have to ask of them to focus on educational outcomes. We have almost 40%, over 40% of our students who do not read on grade level in the 3rd grade. That is morally unacceptable. And so we went in to do the science of reading, teach phonics, make sure we have a reading scholarship to advance that. Because if you can't read by the 3rd grade, you flatline. And your ability to get to where you need to go in high school and beyond is very, very compromised. So we have to be focused on this issue. I was a speaker, I will be together.
Thank you.
Gentlemen, next question. So, if there is a change in partying in 2028, I'm trying to be as PC as I possibly can. What will you do to preserve states' rights as governor? Speaker Renner, I'd like to come to you first.
Well, as an attorney, I believe in the Constitution and the 9th and 10th Amendment. And I've said on the radio that I don't care who's in office, if it's a violation of our states' rights, we will give the 9th and 10th Amendment a CrossFit workout every week by filing suit and asserting our rights as a state to control our destiny. As I think most people that are educated in this room, because it's an educated bunch, know, the federal government has long ago outstripped its limited enumerated powers under the Constitution. And we need to push back against that with a new Supreme Court, both at the state level and at the U.S. level, and challenge that. And we've done that in the State House when I was Speaker, along with the governor, on a number of different things. We said, look, if you rape a child, you can receive the death penalty. Now, right now, and I believe in that, right now, that is unconstitutional under old Supreme Court precedent, but we're going to challenge that. And we did that, so that's already happened. The Miller test on online pornography, I was very strong in challenging some of these horrible books that are being put in kids' classrooms that are way over the top. And the default position of some of the school boards had been, oh, well, it has literary merit. Wait a minute, an adult sodomizing a child has a literary merit in elementary school? I don't think so. And so challenging the Miller test, which set that standard out, which should not apply in the case of children in school, is something we should do. We should pass a bill that we know that is currently unconstitutional under old, bad Supreme Court precedent, and let the new U.S. Supreme Court, with President Trump's appointments, is a much, much better court. It's not perfect, but it's much better than it used to be. Challenge those, and again, we'll give them a CrossFit workout, by which I mean we're going to take cases up, we're going to challenge that. The same thing when it comes to Islam. I've been very clear that we're going to stop, I want to see a stop to all Muslim immigration. I want to challenge things in court when it comes to our Universal Schools Choice Scholarship. We're not sending that money to people that are teaching Sharia law concepts, and they're going to sue us under the First Amendment. But I don't believe that is a religious freedom issue, because this is a secular system that seeks to dominate every aspect of our society and force us to assimilate to their worldview, but you have to have the courage to bring that lawsuit. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
We have to remember that the federal government did not create the states. The states created the federal government. Whether it was Joe Biden or, heaven forbid, Gavin Newsom in 2028, we have to remember that the governor of Florida is that last line of defense between more encroachment. Speaker Renner started off by saying that we got very close to a Governor Andrew Gillum. Speaker, I can tell you how close we got, precisely the width of Andrew Gillum's crack pipe. And so we have to remember that we can be so close to losing it all. Jefferson said it best. The price of liberty is eternal vigilance. When the federal government tries to mandate vaccines, lockdowns, churches like this one from shutting out parishioners for Sunday service or a funeral, we have to stand up to that. Now, we have to, of course, stand up to the crazy Democrats when they do it. But you also need a Republican who will stand up to his own party when they try to push mandates on us from the federal government. I am a 10th Amendment absolutist. The 10th Amendment of the U.S. Constitution says that if it's not explicitly enumerated for the federal government, it is reserved for the states and her people. That is our job to defend. And so if Washington, D.C. bureaucrats want to strip our rights away from regulating AI or data centers, we're going to see them in court. If they want to try to supersede our right to abolish abortion, we are going to see them in court. If they want to push offshore drilling in the Gulf of America, we will see them in court. And guess what? We will win because President Trump gave us a strong conservative bench. Now, how much we will win, I don't know. It'll either be a 5-4 or a 6-3 speaker, depending on how she is feeling that day.
Thank you. Okay, this is going to be a more lighthearted one. What guides your moral compass, and what will guide your moral compass as governor if you get elected? What guides your moral compass? What thing or person? What guides your moral compass if you get elected as governor? What's going to be that, Mr. Speaker?
Well, listen, as a Christian, I don't think it can do anything other than guide your entire life. And it gives me a true north, and it makes political decisions for me. I think one of the reasons we were successful is making decisions that send other conservatives, running for cover has never been hard for me. Because if you know the truth and you act on it, it's really quite easy. There's nothing, it doesn't matter about controversy, and maybe I was built for it, but that stuff doesn't bother me. If the media's attacking me, if people are losing their minds, the liberals of TikTok are losing their minds, I'm over the target. And so I don't mind that at all, and so my faith guides me in really every aspect of life. I'm a conservative. It's not a conservative on economic issues only, or cultural issues only, or family issues only. It's across the board. And it really is about what works. And fundamentally, we know as Christians that there is a capital T truth. There is a certain way that if you believe in a designer, which I do, that we're created as I do, things work in a certain way, and if you don't follow the user manual, they don't work. And we see a culture, I said again to this pastors group today, you don't have to speculate what a world without God looks like. You can see it now in our culture. It has names like Jeffrey Epstein. It has names, and Charlie Kirk, before he died, mentioned that, and when I heard him, that every pagan culture, before there was any kind of communication or people could sail across and talk to each other, all these different areas across the globe had one thing in common, is the sacrifice of children. And you see today what happens in a world without God, and children in our youth are under constant attack. Whether it's online pornography, social media, now AI that takes it up an order of magnitude. And I don't think you'll find anybody who's been in public office who's done more to defend childhood and protect children than I have. And I will continue to do that as a father of a 5- and a 4-year-old. If you hurt a child in the state of Florida, you will wish you never came here.
Thank you, Speaker Rivers. Mr. Bishop. Could you restate the question, please?
What one thing guides your moral compass?
Jesus Christ.
Mr. Fishback's already ready for office. He ceded his time back. Well done. Next question, gentlemen. Speaker Renner, I'll come back to you first. What's the one policy you have not spoken about publicly before?
What policy have I not spoken about?
Yeah. What's one that's going to...
When you choose Patriot Mobile, you're not just picking a wireless provider. You're choosing a company that shares your values. It's easy to switch, and you can keep your number, your phone, and most importantly, your values. With Patriot Mobile, you get the power of nationwide coverage on all 3 major networks. That means wherever life takes you, we've got you covered on the same reliable networks you already know and trust. And when you need us, we're here for you right here at home. Our customer service is 100% US-based because we believe that support should come from people who understand you and your values. At Patriot Mobile, you're not just another call, you're a priority. In today's world, where you spend your money matters more than ever, every dollar is a vote for the kind of future you want to build. Join the thousands of Americans making a difference with every call, every text, and every connection. Choose a company that shares your values. Choose Patriot Mobile.
He had a good night, and then a morning thought he couldn't shake. Opened his phone, answered some questions, had a provider review it. Whatever he was worried about, he handled it. No office, no awkward waiting room, just done. 360phi.com. Your phone, your business.
about this. What's something you haven't spoken about publicly before? Spoken publicly, maybe. I posted the other day, if you saw this viral video of the two dads and they're bouncing the baby and the baby's calling for his mother. I'm not okay with that. So I think, we have a crisis in this country, across the world, where we have fathers that have abandoned their families, and I'm the first guy to stand up and say that men need to do their job and look after their sons and daughters, period. The last thing we need to do, in the same way, kids need a mom. And so to consciously allow for surrogacy where two men are adopting a child, that is about their own satisfaction, their own enjoyment, their own fulfillment. It is not about the child. We have to return to a world in which it's about the child. It's not about our convenience. It's about investing in them. As a Christian parent, it means my daughter and son is teaching them the gospel, teaching them the importance, how to be a good citizen, how to love each other, how to walk through this world again, understanding what it's all about, what their purpose is here. And so to have children be commoditized in this fashion is unacceptable. I've not spoken about it, but I posted about it, and I think that needs to end.
Thank you, Mr. Member. Mr. Fisher, same question for you. What's the one policy you haven't spoken about publicly before that you'd like to share?
Well, my problem is I speak too much publicly and I get myself in trouble. But I share Speaker Renner's frustration with the surrogacy problem. That's why, as governor, I would ban surrogacy in the state of Florida. A woman's womb is not for sale. But I will talk about something that is top of mind for a lot of people, not just those in our own party, but those all over the state of Florida, and that is the crimes of Jeffrey Epstein and his co-conspirators. What George Orwell wrote in 1984, that their last and most essential command was to deny the evidence of your eyes and ears. We have all read the disgusting horrors in the Epstein files. That's why, as governor, I would work with my cabinet to appoint a special prosecutor to reopen the Epstein investigations here in Florida. This man stood against Thomas Massie, stood against a patriot, refused to sign the discharge position, refused to bring real justice transparency to the victims of Jeffrey Epstein. That is not okay. It is disqualifying. We talk a lot about Epstein's island in the Caribbean, but Epstein had an even more prolific island where he committed those heinous, disgraceful, wicked, and vile crimes. That island is right here in our state, the island of Palm Beach. Speaker Renner will know that criminal sexual battery in our state, already on the books, does not have a statute of limitations. That means, like murder, whether it happened 20 or 30 years ago is irrelevant. We can still bring charges today. Oh, and by the way, criminal sexual battery is punishable by the death penalty. I will sign those death warrants proudly to execute the individuals who trafficked those young girls with Jeffrey Epstein. Thank you.
Recently, during the special session, another one of the bills that was held up dealt with medical freedom. In particular, one of the most controversial parts of that medical freedom bill is the vaccine mandate portion. Will you champion, as governor, amending the current law related to medical vaccine mandates to allow for more parental rights in that area? Mr. Speaker.
Yeah, let me just bootstrap on what was just said, is that we passed that bill to put the death penalty on the rape of a child when I was Speaker. When I'm governor, we will also, right now the law is if you traffic a child under 12, you can receive the death penalty. What about a 13-year-old or a 14-year-old? And so you can see on our voterenner.com website, we have a policy, or again, a written policy to end sex trafficking in our state. As horrible as Jeffrey Epstein is, it's happening right now in the state. A lot of those people are minors. A lot of those victims are minors. that we're going to make sure to impose the death penalty on them, give the adequate funding, because it's significantly underfunded, where real girls and boys are being groomed as we speak, and there are not enough investigators to get after it, and we will go after those networks. As to vaccine mandates, again, I also have a bold vision and a written policy, you can see it on our website, for health, freedom, and wellness. That includes an end to vaccine mandates, that includes supporting alternative medicine, that includes a farm to cafeteria program to work with our farmers. Again, we're going to make sure that we're taking care of old Florida and taking care of nutrition. We want to know what's in our food, and I want to make sure that we also put the cell phones down for a minute. If you remember, those of us that have some gray hair, we had a presidential physical fitness test. Remember that? Sit-ups, push-ups, pull-ups. I'm going to create a governor's physical fitness test when I'm governor and make sure that we're getting kids on the playground to become resilient and take care of all these things. So health freedom is about vaccine mandates, but it's also about a lot of other things in our food and taking care to make sure we live long lives of wellness. And there's a lot more ground to be covered here. What I've learned in the course of my work on social media is that a lot of these big corporations that you would hope really care about us, just care about monetizing us. And this is true where we had 10 or 11 vaccines and now it's like 70, 80. And so we've got to get after that and make sure people, parents, and pediatricians should have that conversation, not the pediatrician and the CDC. Thank you.
Well, Speaker Renner, if you do that governor's fitness test, then I really need to win because I just had 2 Costco hot dogs on the way here. There's no way I'm going to pass that.
I had a Five Guys hot dog, so there's confessions have been made.
Mine was cheaper, $1.50, baby. Look, this guy, he'll raise the price of the Costco hot dog to $9 and pocket the difference. But in all seriousness, one of the gravest crimes against humanity was the lie that the COVID vaccine was safe and effective. It's a very simple check on someone's independent free thinking. Did you take the mRNA vaccine, yes or no? He took it, I didn't, and I will never let them force that poison down you or your kids' throats. But here's the thing. We need medical freedom. In the same way you can't deny someone access to your restaurant, to your concert hall, or to your doctor's office on the basis of their race, of their sex, or their religion, you should not ever be able to deny someone access on the basis of their vaccine status. As governor, I'll get that job done. But there is one exception to this rule, because we've all seen the science, we've seen the studies from Harvard to Stanford. The COVID vaccine is poison. The rates of myocarditis and pericarditis in young men in particular, the incidence of young men suffering heart attacks 40 to 50 times the normal rate. As governor, I will pull the COVID vaccine from the market.
Thank you, gentlemen. I want to take a minute and acknowledge the fact that we have so many young people in the room. There is a generational shift that is happening. This question is around governance. Speaker Renner, I'll come to you first. Given the young people who are enthusiastic in the room and across the state, who are becoming more engaged civically, how will you govern as we move through a generational shift of leadership should you take office?
Well, look, I think it's exciting, and again, I'll go back to Charlie Kirk, who said that the generation, Gen Z generation, younger generation, is the most conservative generation in our history, in his view, and that's a very, very good thing for the future of our country. And so it's about making sure, in my estimation, that we restore hope where there's not any hope, that we make sure that the American dream should be just as alive for you as it was for me. I bought a home when I was in my 20s with not a lot of money. And so I have, in our property tax proposal, strong incentives to make sure we prioritize first-time homeownership.
Most growing businesses are making seven-figure decisions on gut feel and assumptions. The biggest companies in the world don't operate that way. Neither should you. Sherloc gives you market intelligence they pay six figures for. We find your buyers before your competitors do. Visit investinanswers.com to learn more.
He had a good night. And then, a morning thought he couldn't shake. Opened his phone, answered some questions, had a provider review it. Whatever he was worried about, he handled it. No office, no awkward waiting room, just done. 360phi.com. Your phone, your business.
Was it the same thing as last time? Instead of driving 40 minutes to find out, she ordered the test to her door and did it at home. She had real answers before the week was out. No waiting room, no half-day gone. 360phi.com. Real answers from home.
For everybody in this room who's never had the benefit and privilege of owning a home, first and foremost, it means protecting your jobs. I am in the same boat when it comes to H-1B visas. They should be paused altogether, gotten rid of altogether. Now that's a federal thing, but what I can do as governor is there will be no state employees that have H-1Bs. There will be no state contracts. If you have a state contract, you cannot have an H-1B worker. We're going to make sure that Florida jobs are for Florida residents. When it comes to higher education, I'm on record saying we're going to keep in-state tuition steady because we have one of the best deals in America when it comes to a public education, where some out-of-state students pay more, they would pay more in-state in their state than they do out-of-state coming into Florida. And I think that probably ought to go up a little bit to help protect our local folks, but holding in-state tuition steady and continuing down the path to make sure that we have to look at our college degrees as you go through, and I'll give you this example. One of my supporters, his daughter started in graphic design as a freshman. By the time she graduated, AI had taken over, and that degree was then worthless. We cannot allow that to happen. We have to be better at getting after and in real time changing that degree so it's worth something when you graduate, and we're failing young people in that regard too. And so, much like Ronald Reagan, who was an older guy who was president of the United States, he had a great following among young people. And I'm a father of a 5- and 4-year-old. I care a lot about the next generation. If it's not real for you, then that is morally unacceptable. And true leaders will step up for the next generation and make sure that you guys have the same opportunities that I've had.
Thank you, Speaker Renner. Mr. Bigstaff, same question to you. Obviously, we have a very engaged younger generation in the room. As those generations shift and we move to younger leadership, how are you going to govern?
This is not the exception. This is the norm. Thomas Jefferson was 33 at the signing of the Declaration of Independence. James Madison was 25. Alexander Hamilton was 21. Young men built this country. Young men can save this country. Let me acknowledge the fact, and I say it with humility, that our campaign is crisscrossing the state. They said we were an online campaign until we showed up at Waffle House with 300 people. We've since been banned. And then we crowded FAU with 800 people. We have visited 61 of our 67 counties because we are meeting young, old, black, white, it doesn't matter. We're meeting people, Floridians, Americans, face to face. A new poll just came out yesterday that says that if Byron Donalds is our Republican nominee, he will lose the general to David Jolly. If I am given the honor of being your Republican nominee, that poll says I'll beat David Jolly by 5 points and keep Florida in conservative hands. And you only need to look around this room to know why I beat Jolly and this guy loses. Because I'm willing to show up. I'm willing to take the tough questions. Not right now. I'm willing to take, I know you're interrupting, but not right now. Okay. Well, let me just be honest with you just for a moment. Byron Donalds, you're a DEI hire because you want to be governor, but you didn't earn it. You're not willing to talk to these people and take questions. Speaker Renner lives 6 hours from here. I live 8 hours from here. You live 10 miles up the street. What's your excuse?
Final question, and I think this one I saved for last because this is telling. What would you do in your first 24 hours in office as governor? What would be the first thing you do? Mr. Fishback.
The first thing that I would do, very, very first thing that I would do, is I would deploy the Florida National Guard to remove illegal homeless encampments from our streets. No one should be living on the street, shooting heroin into a needle, sleeping in urine or excrement, and no one in this room should have to step over them on their way to church, on their way to pick up their car, or on the way simply to a walk on the beach. The homeless crisis is out of control. In Naples, in Fort Myers, in Orlando, even in DeLand, Jacksonville, it doesn't matter. We've got people living on the street. Yes, the law, it makes it illegal. But if we're not willing to enforce the law, then nothing changes. You know, burning down a police station in the summer of 2020 to honor George Floyd is illegal, but nobody went to prison. Shooting people on the streets of San Francisco is illegal, but nobody ever goes to prison. So if people can live on the streets and make our lives unsafe, but we don't do anything about it, we tolerate that behavior. We tolerate it, and we have victims like Rita Longrick, 74 years old, from Martin County. She went down to Palm Beach County 3 days before Christmas last year, walked into a Barnes & Noble to buy Christmas gifts, and she was stabbed to death by a 40-year-old homeless man who came down from Georgia. If you're not safe in a Barnes & Noble, you're not safe anywhere. I would use my constitutional authority to deploy the Florida National Guard to remove illegal homeless encampments from our streets so they can get the care that they need and we can get the safety that we deserve.
Speaker Renner. Well, what is the first thing in the first 24 hours you do as governor?
So I will call a special session to enact our agenda to lower the cost of living and make Florida affordable again. That means eliminating homestead property taxes. That means reducing insurance costs. That means reversing the perverse incentives that the electrical companies use to overcharge you for your electric bills. And it means ending any chance for AI data centers to be built in the state of Florida. That's my day one priority, and it will continue for 8 years because we've got a long road to travel together to make sure that also the young people in the front row have an opportunity, not in their late 40s, but in their 20s, to buy a home and to have that American dream. That will be my day one priority when I'm governor, and a lot of other stuff that you guys are going to like.
Now we're moving into closing remarks. Since we started with Mr. Fishback first, we're going to start with Speaker Renner first on closing remarks.
So we are at a pivotal crossroads, and with a Republican state, it's time for discernment, it's time for common sense to sniff out the campaign conservatives from the true believers. And I do believe, and it's been referenced tonight, some of the people who didn't choose to show up here, even though they live here, we cannot go backwards. What I love about the governor is he's always leaned forward, he's always fought the left wherever they raise their head. And there's one guy in this room, in this race, that has done the same, and you're looking at him. Over 20 years in the military, as a prosecutor and as Speaker of the House, I've had a lifetime of leadership under pressure and delivered results. I've put forth a bold vision for the future of this state, and I've shown up with courage and beaten them wherever they've raised their heads. That's what we need in the next governor. We need somebody who's got the proven leadership, the mission-centered focus, who's delivered results, and when I'm governor, we will continue to protect and expand the free state of Florida. I know because I was a key architect in building it. God bless you.
Mr. Fishback.
I want to be clear. I don't want to set false expectations. I don't want to catfish any of you. I have zero political experience. What I bring is business experience. My investment firm, Azoria, deployed $40 million of capital just last year alone, investing in companies that were doing the crazy thing, which was not using DEI to discriminate against white Christian men, but hiring people on their skill and merit. I was a high school debater. My first ever high school debate tournament was at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas in October of 2009. High school debate changed my life, but then it went woke, and it became very expensive for kids like me to be able to do it. So I started a free high school debate league that now serves students in 52 of our 67 counties, 5,000 students every single year. When the fentanyl epidemic was happening and young kids were being poisoned at the hands of counterfeit pills, I didn't write in for an op-ed. I started NEO, a no-cost assembly for public schools where we partnered with Broward County, Duval County, and Nassau County to teach young people, to educate them about the poison that is fentanyl, to help them avoid addiction and overdose. I'm not political. I have been a Republican since the day I signed up to vote. I'm the fourth generation Floridian, born and raised in Broward County. My dad drove the city bus for a decade. His dad, my grandpa, was a World War II vet who taught at Florida Atlantic University. His dad, my great-grandfather, was a World War I vet who ran a small hotel on Fort Lauderdale Beach. I bring to this race the passion of a fourth generation Floridian, a vision that says that Florida should be kept the way she is, and the unapologetic devotion to our Christian faith. The power of Luke 6:46. Why do you call me Lord, Lord, and not do as I say? The most important thing for me is to have principles. People say that a lot. Where are your principles? Principles. Well, the question is, where do your principles come from? For me, they come from two places and two places only: the U.S. Constitution and the gospel of Jesus Christ.
Was it the same thing as last time? Instead of driving 40 minutes to find out, she ordered the test to her door and did it at home. She had real answers before the week was out. No waiting room, no half-day gone. 360phi.com. Real answers.
When faith becomes action, communities change, culture shifts, lives are transformed. This is
All right, we are a little late, but we are nonetheless live. Episode 2 of the Spin is R.C. Williams of Watchmen Action. You can also find us on Culture Crossroads. That airs every Sunday evening, 5 p.m. Central Time. BeckTV.plus. You can also find the clips, goodies, segments at our YouTube, Culture Crossroads, at Culture Crossroads 316. I know there's a lot of different show names, but the Spin Cycle is just this. It's some extra content every day where we respond, we react to some of the headlines and try to bring the truth, not the narrative, but the truth. What can we confirm? What is not confirmed? What is hype? What is spin? We want to get rid of all that stuff and then hopefully cut through the noise. You can do what you want with the information, but the point is you have clear and true information. So RC, man, it's been a long time. It's been, I don't know, a little more than 24 hours. Are you okay?
It's like it was yesterday.
It's almost like, yeah, I remember it like it was yesterday. Oh my goodness.
Andrew, doing great. I was just thinking about yesterday's episode 1. And by the way, the show also airs at 9:30 p.m. Eastern on weeknights on the brand new Watchmen Action Network. That's channel 40 on the Epic cable system in North Dakota, soon coming to Roku TV, Tubi TV, Pluto TV, and all those other TVs as well. So now the Spin Cycle has a slot on TV just like that.
There you go. We're growing by the minute every day. We appreciate the new channel subscribers from yesterday.
Yes.
And there have been several across our different platforms. We appreciate those checking out the shorts, taking their time to spend some time with us, and we certainly appreciate it. So let's get into this. What I think are some of the headlines today. And RC, you brought this up. Of course, there is this cyclospora parasite that has infected our produce and is causing what is popularly described as explosive diarrhea. As of the CDC's latest report, July 9th, 843 laboratory confirmed domestically acquired cases, 86 hospitalizations, no reported deaths, cases reported across 31 states, more than 1,500 additional cases awaiting analysis and classification. And illness onsets ranged from May 1st through July 5th. And the CDC expects the numbers to rise due to reporting lag, and illness onset can sometimes be delayed by 6 weeks, I guess. I don't know how they're figuring that out. But apparently, obviously, some of the recent numbers in the headlines have been 3,000 sickened, 4,000 sickened. We're seeing reports of perhaps the epicenter in Michigan, maybe with lettuce, so on and so forth. But I don't think really anybody knows. As of July 14, 3,309 cases as of July 14th. That is, what is today? Is this the 15th? So no, that's of today. I don't even know what day it is. Let me tell you. That's going on. And apparently there's only 40 or 50 cases in a typical year. That doesn't necessarily mean anybody's hiding cases. It's weird. I just think there's a lot of lag in reporting. There are some questions about this, though, and why it's taken so long. For example, why has there not been a recall of anything? Normally, when there is any kind of food contamination, we know right away what product it is. Stores pull it off the shelves. We're all instructed to go check our fridges and pantries and look at the expiration dates or the serial numbers or whatever QR numbers they might have, identifying numbers, so that we can identify those products and get them out of the house. But apparently, this is just a drip, drip, drip that's going to go on and on and on. RC, what are you seeing on your end?
You know, Andrew, my concern around this is what it always is when it has to do with the CDC. I mean, we went through this with COVID, where there's either lag time or it's like the left hand doesn't know what the right hand is doing. My concern, Andrew, some of the stories I've heard around the fertilizer on the lettuce and other things that have been affected, that there's a human component to that. And there have been stories floating around, we've covered some of them and ripped from the headlines, that human waste is being used as fertilizer in addition to animal waste, which traditionally that's how fertilizer starts. But the human element is something that keeps coming up. I don't know that they're directly correlated, but it is strange to me how these things happen, right? And you go from 50 or so cases a year into the thousands. I think getting to the root of what happened there is important. And right now, it's almost like so much of the product has been moved that they can't tell you, hey, go in your fridge and throw it out. Because, Andrew, honestly, I don't think that they know everything that's been impacted. I think there's going to be more to this than we know. And the best they can tell you is basically cook your vegetables.
What we're hearing is to how this parasite gets on food, at least in past years, it's through like fecal contaminated water that's sprayed on the crops. And then that goes to the store. So for example, if it's on lettuce, one of the ways the Wizards of Smart are telling us to protect ourselves or to prevent the illness is to peel off the first few layers of lettuce to get those outer layers off and then wash it as normal.
The more difficult foods are things like raspberries or uncooked broccoli, cauliflower that have a lot of nooks and crannies where the parasite can get in and hide. Michigan investigators say the available evidence indicates that lettuce or salad greens may be a potential source, but they have not identified a specific type of lettuce or green, a particular brand. There's no grower, there's no distributor, there's no supplier, there's no processing plant. And other foods have not been ruled out either. This, according to Michigan.gov. So it is curious, and it's curious as to the widespread nature of it as well. But I'm not saying curious as in necessarily conspiracy theory, and they're all trying to kill us. But it is curious.
It is, Andrew, and I think we see this in a couple of different areas. It exposes some of the fundamental weaknesses of our system and our structure, and given the things that have happened over the years, that when you look back at them, you say, wow, how much gross incompetence played a part in this. I mean, I think we learned that from 2020 beyond. There was an agenda, obviously, but we had such gross incompetence at so many levels that you think to yourself, man, it's a good thing that it wasn't mass fatality because we'd all be dead. Just on a slightly lighter note, they say, hey, peel back the first layer. Look, man, in this economy, most people can't afford to peel off that layer and just throw it away. Right? Stuff's expensive, including lettuce. Like,
You know, one of those, again, not to make light of serious situations, but this struck me as funny this morning. The first story that I read about this had to do with Taco Bell removing lettuce from their products, and I mean the amount of jokes about how Taco Bell already has a long history with human digestive issues.
Yes.
What struck me as especially hilarious. No offense, Taco Bell. We've all eaten there. We get it. But it's not like they're unfamiliar with that type of thing.
Yeah, that is kind of a thing with Taco Bell. I mean, you could change the name of it to ED. Explosive diarrhea. Taco Bell, please don't sue me. But I mean, yeah, it has a long storied history. It's interesting that they said, let's pull the fresh ingredients and so we don't catch a buzzsaw. But Andrew, I think obviously people, you want to pay attention to these things, and it's hard to tell at this point. It's always when people ask me about, are you worried about said contaminant or anything else? And I'm like, listen, here's the challenge. By the time you figure it out, by the time you find out what's going on, it's already made its way around the world. Anything can get around the world in a day or less. At this point. And, I think being conscious of it is important, but I think we also have an accountability thing. We talked about this a little bit yesterday with governance and even with the CDC and some of our other agencies, whether it's at the federal level or the state equivalents. We have to be paying attention. And I think that, as we talk about what's going on with Lindsey Graham and some of the other stuff here with Iran, the vigilance that's necessary in a self-governing society is really starting to show itself at this point. And, people complain about those who represent them. I think you have to ask the hard question, how'd they get there? They got there because we weren't vigilant. People say big money interests and everything. Look, I get that. But again, it goes back to vigilance. How does that big money get in? We did a piece on Byron Donalds and his stock trades late last week.
Most of us have something we have been quietly managing, hoping it resolves, telling ourselves we will deal with it next week. Board-certified providers are available today from your home, private, thorough, and licensed in your state. Stop putting it off. 360phi.com. He had a good business, solid product, good people. He just couldn't figure out why growth had stalled. Sherloc found the buyers he didn't know were looking. Now he knows exactly where to go next. Learn more at investinanswers.com.
Was it the same thing as last time? Instead of driving 40 minutes to find out, she ordered the test to her door and did it at home. She had real answers before the week was out. No waiting room, no half-day gone. 360phi.com. Real answers from home.
Most growing businesses are making seven-figure decisions on gut feel and assumptions. The biggest companies in the world don't operate that way. Neither should you. Sherloc gives you market intelligence they pay six figures for. We find your buyers before your competitors do. Visit investinanswers.com to learn more.
She knew something was off the moment she woke up and didn't want to deal with the health center. She opened her phone, answered a few questions, and had a prescription ready before her roommate even got up, handled from her room. 360phi.com. Real care. No waiting room.
He had a good night. And then, a morning thought he couldn't shake. Opened his phone, answered some questions, had a provider review it. Whatever he was worried about, he handled it. No office, no awkward waiting room, just done. 360phi.com. Your phone, your business.
When you choose Patriot Mobile, you're not just picking a wireless provider. You're choosing a company that shares your values. It's easy to switch, and you can keep your number, your phone, and most importantly, your values. With Patriot Mobile, you get the power of nationwide coverage on all 3 major networks. That means wherever life takes you, we've got you covered on the same reliable networks you already know and trust. And when you need us, we're here for you right here at home. Our customer service.
If you follow the money that's even financed him and you get to the Club for Growth, I mean, follow the money, right? You've basically got 4 or 5 people who control potentially a large outcome in a gubernatorial election for one of the largest states in the country. Our level of vigilance is important here. If too many people are watching, people won't try to get away with things. It's like the old adage, an armed society is a polite society. This is no different. If a lot of people are paying attention, people are much less inclined to do things that they shouldn't be doing or try to pull a fast one. And I think people need to be reminded of that even in this instance, because my questions obviously go to the CDC, but within the state of Michigan, I want to know where that contaminated water is coming from, who's in charge of that. And without completely tightening my tinfoil hat, I would ask people to take a correlation and look at what happened with the LA fires. When we finally started to figure out who was in charge of things and you got one look at them, you knew exactly why there were so many problems. We end up with some of the strangest and most incompetent people many times in these roles because they generally don't have a high level impact until something bad happens. And then you figure out the person who runs these things has absolutely no clue or any experience in the area that they work in. Not saying this is the case, but it's certainly worth looking into.
Yeah, we got to move to the next story, but I do want to say, well, I don't want to say anything because I lost my thoughts. So we're moving right along. Potential Lindsey Graham conspiracy here.
Oh boy.
Yeah, I know this, but this. Okay, so this is this has been going around. It's a viral post. I've seen some of it on X, some of it on Facebook, that claims that former CIA analyst Larry Johnson has said that Senator Lindsey Graham could not have returned from Ukraine in time to suffer his medical emergency at his Washington home Saturday evening. The posts, I'm summing them up, but effectively they say the Ukraine trip plus return journey makes an 8:30 p.m. arrival impossible, and then presents the assertion that Pentagon insiders know the truth, that Lindsey Graham died in Kiev, and the cover story is already exposed by simple schedules. Let's see, Johnson made the allegation during an online interview on YouTube entitled "Lindsey Graham Died in Ukraine and U.S. Covered It Up." But on balance, there are no other documents, no one named Pentagon, Pentagon sources, flight records, witness testimony, anything like that. What is confirmed, we do know that the Graham was publicly photographed and recorded in Kiev on Friday, July 10th, meeting with President Volodymyr Zelensky, they talked about air defense requirements. They talked about sanctions on purchasers of Russian oil. They talked about continued American support from Ukraine. And Graham's office also issued a July 10th announcement that he and other senators had reached an agreement with the Trump administration to advance legislation targeting purchasers of Russian oil and natural gas. So, but this comes down to a timeline now that we don't really know. There's evidence that places Lindsey Graham in Washington. There's Fox Carolina published photographs showing emergency personnel delivering him to George Washington University on late Saturday night. District of Columbia, DC's fire and EMS radio traffic reportedly recorded the first emergency dispatch to Graham's Washington residence shortly after 8 p.m., and that was for the cardiac arrest. Apparently there was a telephone call minutes before Graham became ill. So we really don't have anything that would tell us there's a cover-up going on. However, what remains legitimately unanswered is Graham's precise departure time from Kiev, his ground route out of Ukraine, the airport from which he flew, what kind of plane was he traveling on? Was it government, military, chartered, that kind of thing? We don't know exactly when he got to Washington. We don't have the full 911 call and EMS chronology. We don't have the reason the FBI remained involved after the preliminary medical finding, and we don't have the final medical examiner's report and toxicology. That would provide really a complete and independently verifiable timeline. So all we have really is, an allegation, an assertion that someone is covering this up that's going viral, but that is what we can verify. That's what we can verify. So if you're seeing these bounce around the internet, if there's some there, that will show up. But right now we don't have that.
Andrew, I mean, at first I thought he was traveling with President Trump on Air Force One, but obviously that wasn't the case. I mean, so, okay, fine. Like, is there a conspiracy? Are they trying to cover up the fact that he died in Ukraine? I mean, look, the fact remains, as best we can tell, the guy's actually dead. Okay. And his sister has already been appointed to take his seat. I guess for the sake of closing the loop, yeah, sure. And if he did, in the event, die in Ukraine, why would the U.S. government feel the need to cover that up? Fine. I think following up on what I said yesterday, though, these are the distractions that concern me when we have bigger fish to fry. And anytime I hear something like this, the first thing I do is I look at other parts of the news cycle or the spin cycle to figure out what's trying to be slid by while people are distracted. We lost a sitting senator. There's a process for that, where I said today the flag outside is at half-mast. I can appreciate that, right? Didn't particularly agree with Lindsey Graham on most of his positions, and that's fine too. He's passed on. Okay, great. And his seats, he's already had someone appointed to his seat for the remainder of his term, and there is a process. I don't know that rehashing this does anything else except suck people down a rabbit hole. And interestingly enough, we're seeing a lot of that with conservative media right now in general. It's like all these rabbit holes that just distract you on things where it's like, that should have been solved a long time ago. Why is it all of a sudden relevant? What are you distracting me from? And our audience, Andrew, whether it's Culture Crossroads, Watchmen Brief, or even now the Spin Cycle, you guys look beyond the spin and figure out what's going on. Eventually, we'll figure it out, but it's
and
not
with these rabbit holes, we talk, and again, if anybody, checks out our, Culture Crossroads or Watchmen Action, we do get into things that are in some cases are conspiracies.
Yeah.
But it's really pattern recognition, and also an understanding, a spiritual understanding of human nature, and our tendencies are bent towards evil and doing destructive things. And so we just look at that and say, listen, if it's like watching a wave come in from the shore. You can see it all the way out, in the ocean, and you can say, hey, that's going to keep approaching the shore, and it's going to land about right here. You can see the water line oftentimes, from the on the sand. It's the same thing. It's much different than putting up, an assertion and then not providing anything to back that up at all. And as you're talking about, that then becomes a distraction, because now we dig further into unfortunately, our tribalism camps, and we end up, majoring on the minors quite a bit.
Yeah. I encourage people, don't fall for the shiny object syndrome. Don't do it.
All right, well, let's move from that to, has America done its job in Iran? What? This is a legitimate question.
No, I know it is. I'm just.
In a Breitbart clip, Republican Kansas Senator Roger Marshall argues that Iran's military and nuclear capabilities have weakened enough that regional government should assume responsibility for what comes next. What Marshall claimed effectively was that the United States has, quote, defanged Iran, unquote, that Iran is unlikely to obtain a nuclear weapon in the immediate future, which President Trump, by the way, said that the nuclear dust or whatever the minerals are that are underground are so far underground that only America has the tools to get them out. Now, that was also a claim that was made a year ago as well, but I digress. Marshall goes on to claim that Gulf nations now have a responsibility to finish the job, quote unquote. The Gulf countries should be prepared to deploy their own ground troops, and that American soldiers should not lead a ground invasion or occupation. And Marshall did say, and direct quote, "We've done our job." Have we done our job? What is our job? We were told that it was, we don't want Iran to have a nuclear weapon. They didn't have one before. We were told that it was underground and we decimated all their materials and all their ability to make a weapon. Then we had to go in to make sure they didn't have a nuclear weapon. And then for months it was, we've got a deal, we don't have a deal, we've got a deal, we don't have a deal. Memorandum of understanding that lasts for about 4 seconds, not even enough time for the ink to dry. And now we're back on again, and now we're hearing that we've done our job and they don't have a weapon. President Trump also said the same thing in a press conference last week. But we don't,
Most growing businesses are making 7-figure decisions on gut feel and assumptions. The biggest companies in the world don't operate that way. Neither should you. Sherlock gives you market intelligence they pay 6 figures for. We find your buyers before your competitors do. Visit investinanswers.com to learn more.
She knew something was off the moment she woke up and didn't want to deal with the health center. She opened her phone, answered a few questions, and had a prescription ready before her roommate even got up, handled from her room. 360phi.com. Real care. No waiting room.
He had a good night. And then, a morning thought he couldn't shake. Opened his phone, answered some questions, had a provider review it. Whatever he was worried about, he handled it. No office, no awkward waiting room, just done. 360phi.com.
Game here. What are we doing? If it's nuclear, if they're not supposed to have a nuclear weapon,
bit of levity. Let's have a little fun. It's almost like we have a coordinator to coordinate the coordinating that reports to the director of coordination, who reports to the chief coordinating officer, which is why it's on, it's off, it's on, it's off, it's on, it's off. So, I mean, this is obviously littered with problems. And let me go back to something I said at CPAC this year in Dallas that made for the fastest we have to go to break on Steve Bannon's War Room, probably in the history of the show. I said at that time, with regard to the Iran war, Trump is fighting a two-front war. The first one, well, not a war, I'm sorry, an engagement, whatever they're calling it now, is he's got the battle that's in front of him, okay, that's happening in Iran. But he's also got the court of public opinion. And Americans' appetite for conflict is limited because we have problems internally that we need to deal with, which is why the day that I was on War Room, or we were supposed to be on, they preempted with the cabinet meeting because I said, President Trump is trying to get out in front of whatever's about to happen next. The other thing I said at that point is that you have to take a boxing analogy to heart here. If you are in the ring with a bum, you need to knock him out in the first round. If you let a bum hang with you in the ring, they will hurt you. So what's happened? You let a bum hang around in the ring with you. Now you're into the 12th or 13th round, and you're still trying to put them away. But now they're encouraged because they haven't been stomped out yet. If you're going to do the thing, you got to do it. Final point, Andrew, about the senator's comment about Gulf countries going in and doing it. Steve asked me this question on the show. He said, why won't the Arabs fight? I said, because that's what they pay us to do. Right? The Saudis, the whole deal for oil in the Middle East is predicated on the U.S. providing protection. Will these Middle Eastern countries eventually do something? They probably should, and Saudi Arabia has already said that they would contribute or participate in that process. But that's a tough road to hoe when Big Daddy's in the mix and he's supposed to be handling business, and then you look and say, well, wait a minute. The deal for us taking payment for oil in U.S. dollars is predicated on the U.S. being security and kind of being the mob muscle to make sure things stay in order. Andrew, it's like the song that will drive you insane. It just won't stop, and you want it to.
It's important to be clear that the United States has not actually concluded its military role. CENTCOM said American forces, this according to Reuters, American forces completed another 5-hour wave of strikes against targets in Bushehr, Chabar, Jask, Konarak, Abu Musa, and Bandar Abbas. The operation marked the third consecutive night of renewed U.S. attacks. According to the AP, the strikes targeted coastal defense systems, missile installations, drone sites, and Iranian maritime capabilities, with the stated objective of reducing Iran's ability to attack commercial shipping and regional targets. And now, of course, the war has shifted to the Strait of Hormuz. The central battlefield is no longer limited to Iran's nuclear facilities. It's become increasingly a war over the control of the Strait of Hormuz. President Trump saying, I believe it was yesterday, that we intend to set up shop in the Strait of Hormuz and charge fees for people to go through it in the midst of Iran attacking ships that are coming through that strait. We're warring about freedom of commercial navigation, again, through the Strait of Hormuz, Iranian oil exports, Gulf state security, and the cost of protecting international shipping. And again, a reminder, the Strait of Hormuz normally carries roughly 1/5 of the globally traded crude oil and natural gas. And so Iran's ability to threaten or attack shipping remains one of Tehran's strongest forms of leverage. RC, when this started, there wasn't any tolls or anything like that going through the Strait of Hormuz. Now, obviously, that has shifted. You have to think that part of that is because I think the Trump administration knows not just domestic oil prices and gas, but also I think part of the global economy and certainly America's economy is not exactly as strong as they might like people to believe, and they can't allow. Now we're in it so deep, we can't allow the Strait of Hormuz to go haywire and sideways, especially coming out of, if we're trying to come out of this thing looking like we are winning.
Andrew, to take a line from the world famous Gordon Gekko in the classic movie Wall Street, I am up to my backside in more nuts than a fruitcake right now. Just being honest. It feels like Abbott and Costello. Who's on first? Like, this goes back like our prior story when we were talking about what's going on with the outbreak, right? I ask myself hard questions. The best and the brightest, in particular, when it comes to our military and our capabilities, we are the strongest, most powerful military in the world. How does an operation that has this many moving parts, but has a very clear and distinct purpose, not get executed nearly flawlessly by the most powerful military apparatus in the history of the world? So I have to start there. And then I ask myself, if that doesn't happen, how can we not, being as advanced as we are, go and fix those problems and get this thing done? Let me explain to everyone simply. This is what happens when you're not looking for a landmine in a field full of landmines and you step on one. Guys, look, and this is us kind of spin cycle. This is a lot of what happens off the air that you don't see on the TV shows. Until we are willing to call a spade and ask these hard questions very practically and actually keep asking until we get an answer, you will have a perpetual battle in Iran that will mirror Afghanistan or the Iran-Iraq war, or take your pick, right? And I think what people underestimate, and listen, I'm not a fan of Iran or what they do or the theocracy of the government. I'm not, so please don't take it that way. But you have to understand that the ideology that exists here is empowered when they can take what they deem the great Satan and keep them in perpetual battle. If you're going to knock a bum out, knock him out. If you're not, don't fight.
Well, here's the other thing that I would add too. I think that we're underestimating against Iran. You mentioned, they want to take out the great Satan. They want to take out the little Satan. But they also, the Islam belief, they want to bring about the 12th Imam, and they believe to hasten the 12th. And if you look at how they describe the 12th Imam, it's effectively, they took that from how the Bible describes the Antichrist, and they want to bring this 12th Imam and hasten the coming of the 12th Imam. I think one of the things that we may be underestimating, at least it looks like from our perspective, is honestly the spiritual aspect of this. This is not just about making a deal to survive to the next day, which I believe is where Trump comes from. I think where we've underestimated the Middle East, even to Bush 43, is their spiritual belief and conviction in what they're doing. And if you don't meet that with an equal spiritual conviction into what you're doing and an objective to come away with, and by the way, go back, other than maybe Desert Storm and at least the pretense of after 9/11, weapons of mass destruction, when have we had, since World War II, an actual, this is what we're going in to do, and here's our objective, and here's what we're going to do. And listen, if you want to know more about that, YouTube channel, Culture Crossroads 316, go through some of the former videos there. I did a breakdown of the war powers since World War II. We have not ever, Congress has constitutionally is the one that declares war. We have not had an official declaration of war since World War II, which means every war we've been in, Korea, Vietnam, Desert Storm, Iran, Afghanistan, none of it has been actually constitutionally started. And that matters because now President Trump has formally informed Congress that hostilities resumed on July 7th, and the administration maintains that this means it's a new 60-day period under the War Powers Resolution. So what that means is if a president effectively goes to war, he's got 60 days to bring it before Congress to get a resolution.
Right.
Well, what happened is that MOU came at the 60-day mark, and all of a sudden we have a ceasefire, except it wasn't a ceasefire. And now we're starting again to start the clock over. I'm not an Iran apologist in any stretch of form. Their government is evil. Their regime is evil. They should be wiped off the face of the earth. I absolutely agree. I don't know why we don't go to Congress and get that declared and do this right. And it should have been. And I think we have the firepower and the strength. And if we would muster the will, which I don't know that we have, to win, I think we could have.
She knew something was off the moment she woke up and didn't want to deal with the health center. She opened her phone, answered a few questions, and had a prescription ready before her roommate even got up, handled from her room. 360phi.com, real care. No waiting room. Was it the same thing as last time? Instead of driving 40 minutes to find out, she ordered the test to her door and did it at home. She had real answers before the week was out. No waiting room, no half-day gone. 360phi.com, real answers from home.
He had a good night. And then, a morning thought he couldn't shake. Opened his phone, answered some questions, had a provider review it. Whatever he was worried about, he handled it. No office, no awkward waiting room, just done. 360phi.com. Your phone, your business.
Most of us have something we have been quietly managing, hoping it resolves, telling ourselves we will deal with it next week. Board-certified providers are available today from your home. Private, thorough, and licensed.
I think we could have done it probably in a couple of weeks, as Trump boasted early on. But now what it looks like is we're going through loopholes to keep this thing going for reasons I don't think that are yet clear, because the objective seems to shift as we go, and the objective seems to shift in ways that are like we're cleaning up the mess that we're making along the way and then pretending that our cleanup is the goal. Every time a new mess, does that make sense? Every time we have a new mess that comes out. And again, I'm not. Hi, Evelyn. Good to see you. We see you in the chat there on YouTube. Thanks for checking us out for a few minutes. Again, this is not I don't support our troops. I don't support, crying out loud. But we have to be able to look at things honestly and objectively and just say, and we should be allowed, and we are, in fact, as we the people, allowed to ask these questions and say, look, it looks like you went in here for reasons, I don't know what. You decided it was going to be to keep Iran from getting a nuclear weapon, which previously you had said that we destroyed them anyway. So why is that? We go back and forth on whether or not we have a deal or don't have a deal. We finally get some kind of deal in place that isn't a real deal, that probably, if I'm going to look at this, and if I'm going to look at that MOU in history, it looks like that was a stopgap, an excuse to be able to restart the 60-day clock, because we weren't going to go to Congress and get a declaration of war officially, which means we really don't have an effective objective that we can say, hey, this is what we're doing, here's what we're going to do, and this is what you look for when the signs of victory. It was keep Iran from getting a nuclear weapon. Now they're all saying they can't get a nuclear weapon, but now we've got to clean up on aisle 7, the Strait of Hormuz, which is a mess that was collateral damage from doing this in the first place. I'm sorry that I went long on there, but that's, I mean, I don't know. Help me understand.
No, I'm with you. And I think I can speak for both of us in talking about how we feel about members of the military, soldiers, right? To the point where we are so convicted and so behind the people who volunteer, by the way. In the U.S., military service is not mandatory. You volunteered to do that. We are so behind them that we want them to all be home safe. That's how behind them we are, okay? Just following this logically. You don't want to put someone in harm's way unless it's absolutely necessary. And, you know, to your point, Andrew, about the cleanup on aisle 7, how much resource drain does this become? And what's the competence level of the people running these things? No disrespect, because I'm not a military person. I did not serve. But I have to ask the hard question, right? Because I'm a citizen of the nation, and I have a right to do so because, in part, I'm financing what's going on there. And it is okay for me or for you or for anyone watching this or anyone who will ever watch this to ask those questions and demand answers from the people you send to represent you, Andrew. That's the answer.
Some uncertainties remain. We're a little bit over time. We're going to wrap up here. And our friend Billy Elliott from yesterday did mention we need to cover Conor McGregor and whether or not he was injured. We're going to have to save that for maybe tomorrow because we're up on time here. But some uncertainties in around that remain. How much enriched material has survived in terms of nuclear material? Did Iran disperse equipment or personnel before the attack? Were they hiding stuff? I mean, that was one of the big theories when George W. Bush went into Iraq was, well, that, you know, Saddam moved everything. Are there any undeclared or underground facilities? Now, if you hear the Trump administration, then at least the posture they're sending in the media is the answer is no, that we've obliterated everything. And the only nation that can reach any of their materials would be America because we're the only ones that has the tools to go that far underground. Is Iran able to rebuild parts of the program still? For example, that was one of the criticisms of the MOU was we unfroze $300 billion. Of course, they're going to rebuild their program with that. We know this. But can they? Or, you know, after this round of attacks, does the increasing military pressure make Tehran more determined to develop another deterrent at some point? And then who's going to inspect and verify any future agreement? Even Marshall himself acknowledged that reports that Iran is attempting to rebuild that from Breitbart. So at best, maybe the nuclear threat has been delayed, but it's hard to say that because we keep hearing that we've decimated it all. And then, well, if we've done that, then again, you go back to what are we doing? It's so upside down. I don't know. I know that, you know, Hardcore Mag is going to say, hey, it's 3D chess, it's 5D chess, it's whatever it is. But at some point, we need some clarity and some straight answers because this affects the world. It affects every one of us as Americans. It affects everyone in that region. And, you know, we have our sons and daughters and brothers and sisters engaged in this battle. Some of them lost their lives, a few of them earlier in this war. We need to know what we're doing. We need to identify the objective, and then we need to execute it. I believe we can. I'm just not sure we know what it is.
Andrew, if you are not willing to hold the people who represent your interests accountable, they will represent their own interests, and you get what you deserve. I want that to stick with everybody because that's an important point here as to why all of this is happening. That does require you to do the work and ask hard questions. I'm not mocking anybody watching this. What I'm saying is you actually need to put in the effort to see things change. And if you're not asking questions, nothing's going to change because that's translated to the people who are doing this, that they can just continue to do whatever they want. And as our good friend Bill Federer says, silence equals consent.
Well, with that, RC, we better wrap it up right here. We'll be back with you tomorrow. RC, do we know what time? I know you're on site, so it's more up to you than me.
Yeah, I think we'll probably just do the 12:45, 1 o'clock area. I think that's working good for us.
All right, 12:45, 1 o'clock, late lunchtime. You can spend it with us here on the Spin Cycle again. We are not looking at the narrative. We're not looking at the spin. We're not even looking at political bias as much as we can help it. Yes, we are politically conservative. Yes, we believe in Jesus Christ. And so that is our worldview. But we just want to look at the facts. What are they? What are we dealing with? And help equip you with those same facts. So thank you for being with us. Again, our other channels, let me put them back up here on our screen. They're going to come at you. They're not really separated very well, but I can't do anything about that right now. But YouTube, you can find at Culture Crossroads 316. Lots of goodies there at Culture Crossroads 316. You can find me on Facebook, The Culture Crossroads with Andrew Southwick, as well as Andrew Southwick Official. We encourage you to like or follow the pages or whatever it is you do over there. Subscribe on the YouTube channels and also for RCs as well. And Watchmen Action, find that on YouTube, find that on Facebook. Like and subscribe there. And of course, our main programs, Watchmen Brief, you can find that and Culture Crossroads every Sunday at 5 p.m. Central on BeckTV.plus and the Watchmen Action Network, which is available on the Epic Cable Epic Cable, and you can get it. Yeah, I think you can download that too on Roku as well. So lots of places to find us, lots of content. This is a ship that is just leaving port. We are growing. And so again, thanks for spending some time with us. As always, leave your comments, what you think, your thoughts about our thoughts in the comment sections, wherever you are. We're happy to read them. Do try to keep it civil. Do try to keep it family friendly. But we appreciate you being with us. So RC, anything that I forgot in that last little bit?
No, you covered it all, my friend. All things Watchmen Action at watchmenaction.org as well.
All right. We'll see you next time.
Our next speaker is and his wife are new friends of mine, and I'll let them really introduce themselves. But I know that I know a little bit about them. They're podcasters, and they're super involved. They travel around. They just got back from the communist state of New York. And I think they were in Queens, if I'm not mistaken, right there in Queens ministry. They're part of the Bill Cook's America's Black Robe Regiment. They're part of that. And new friends, and they're going to be flying out as soon as they're done with their session. And so we'll get back together with them in the future to get to know them, but we're going to enjoy them for the next little while. Come on up, you guys, and I'll let you introduce yourselves. But this is Brother R.C. Williams and his wife, Juliana. Give them a big hand as they come forward.
Pastor Ken, God bless you. God bless you, everyone. Good morning. Can we get an extra mic for Juliana? Thank you. Pastor Nolan, my goodness. All right, amen. You guys want to hear a quick joke? This one's easy. You know how I knew we were going to make it in from New York safely into Nashville yesterday? Our plane's name was Hallelujah.
We were on JetBlue.
We were on JetBlue. It was Hallelujah. So, guys, good morning. What a blessing. Thank you to Pastor Bill Cook and his wife, Judy. The reason that we're in front of you today is because we were on a call with them a while back, and after we talked, Bill's like, you guys have to be at this thing, you have to meet Pastor Ken. So I think it says a lot about what Pastor Ken asked us to do in helping Bill and Judy is you can clearly see who they are because we're here because they recognize it, and we need to recognize and support the great work that they're doing. So thank you guys so much for allowing us to be here. My name is R.C. Williams.
And I'm Juliana Roman.
So we are co-founders of Watchmen Action. Let me go ahead and pull up the goods there. A little bit about us, because people normally ask, it's like, who are these folks? So
Quick background, my degree is in forensic psychology. I went to John Jay College of Criminal Justice. When I met my husband, I was doing competitive intelligence, and believe it or not, so was he. So we decided, you know what, we should build a technology that helps us to do market research because we wanted to be able to help, our clients know what they need to know. And after we started doing all this market research for companies, we realized there was things that we needed to tell our brothers and sisters about, right? So we started our publication on Substack called Ripped from the Headlines. Ripped from the Headlines talks about what the news is saying, what they're not saying, what you need to know about. Okay. And then we started touring with a couple of the pastor groups, and we realized they need to be talking about things that they're not feeling comfortable talking about, like transhumanism, like the war on women, like what they're doing to children, the one world government, right? So we started our second publication about 6 months later called We Are the Watchmen. Well, as we were traveling with these pastor groups, we also realized that there were people out there with great tools, and there were people out there that wanted to be able to advocate for something, but connecting the pastors and the church with the tools, there was a disconnect. So we wrote a workbook called Watchmen Action, and the workbook literally is 3 parts. One is what's your story and what do you want to advocate for? Part 2 is how do you build a strategy around what you want to advocate for? And then part 3 is what are all the tools that you need to get going? So in 4 hours or less, we can come into a church or to an organization and get them advocating for what they need in their community. We need to be involved with our community. So we've been doing all of this, and we're sitting here because we're saying, hey, watchmen, Ezekiel 33:6, if you see that something's happening and the sword comes and you don't tell your brothers and sisters, you're in trouble. So now I get to go on stage and say, as a watchman talking to all the watchmen, you're now obligated to have to go out and go tell your brothers and sisters. Because if we're going to survive what's happening in America, we have to come together. I keep saying that Trump stands in the middle between we the people and they the globalists. They've got the money and they've got the power. We're not even talking about how do we organize. So we're here to talk about how to get organized.
yeah, so we'll let me see if I can get this to move here. No, yes, no, no. Oh, too fast. There we go. That's coming in a second. So, okay. So what's behind that, because the slide didn't work the way I wanted, is why Watchmen Action. And now you see a picture of a rubber chicken on your screen. So Juliana, go ahead.
I was sick and tired of going to these meetings and having another rubber chicken and then we leave and nothing happens. What's the point? We're going to get together so we're going to tickle each other's ears and we all know the same facts? I mean, like seriously. So that's the reason why we're saying we need to start taking real action.
Yeah, serious business. So you go to a meeting, you hear a speaker, you have a bad rubber chicken dinner. Towards the end of the night, you're feeling pretty good, but 12 hours later, the half-life of your excitement is dead. 12 hours later, you're back to your life. 30 days later, you're sitting in front of another bad rubber chicken dinner. R.C. Giuliano, why does that matter? Why does it matter that President Trump is being pulled both ways? They asked us this question when we were in New York this week, and they said, well, okay, what do we do? And it's like, pull him back. He's looking at us saying, what do I do? Have we ever been in a place in your lifetime where the sitting president of the United States looks at you and says, I want to make federal government smaller, and I want you to tell me what we need to do? Have you ever? No, nobody in this room. Well, now you're in that chapter of the book.
So literally, we need to start figuring out if he's sending the responsibilities and the monies back to the state, which means us, what do we want? What does that look like? So we need to start talking to our politicians and saying, this is our community, this is what we expect from you, we're going to hold your feet to the fire. Because I promise you, we helped train one of our House members, got him elected, and then he turned around and called us 6 months in and goes, the older guys are telling me that if I don't vote the way they vote, that I'm done. Well, you know what, then you're done. But unfortunately, he came back a year later and was like, oh, we're going to have these individual helicopters and people are going to be able to travel. And I'm like, you just picked up a globalist agenda. You're supposed to be representing my community. What are you doing? But the pressure that these politicians have is great. Because we, the church, like Reverend Bill was talking about, we're not supporting them. We're not standing up and telling them what we need to be telling them.
Yeah, so this next slide, I'm going to put this up here, and I'm going to give you guys some context. So when we were presenting, we did a long-form teaching in New York City this weekend, and we were talking about why we live in this chaos. One of the stories that we covered in 2023 on We Are the Watchmen was the story of a nonprofit called the Wellcome Trust. Now, the Wellcome Trust took money from the NIH. By the way, that's your money, okay? They took money for a study, and quickly this study was taking the wombs out of female cadavers and putting them into men who think that they're women.
But this is the stuff that's happening.
With the goal of having a baby. Do you know at the end of that study, the conclusion was that it would be immoral not to offer this to men who think they're women so that they can have a baby? Did you know that a group stood up after that and said, not only are we already working on this, we have 2 teams of 5 that are already working on this and will be able to do it within 2 years. Would you guys like to know who that group was? The Cleveland Clinic. You guys remember the old saying, know your foe? Agent Smith is everyone and he is no one, if you are a fan of The Matrix. He is everywhere, and we have to be ready. So that goes to this slide, the levels of government, right? So I'll give you guys this logic, and then we'll flip it. So, biblical government, the logic is that self-government, if you govern yourself accordingly, proper biblical worldview and moral standard, that things will operate. You will operate as a citizen that looks out for others and does all the right things, right? Okay. If you do that part right, the next level, family government, says, well, if you govern yourself properly, in turn, like many people in this room, your families will govern themselves in a biblical way with the proper moral compass, yes? Okay, so if you do that right, then the ecclesia, or the church government, will work properly, right? We're sitting in a church where these levels make sense. If all of those things work, that's why there's this little tiny thing at the top that says civil government. There's really no need for a huge civil government, and the founders told us that, which is why they said few and defined.
So now the big, beautiful bill allows the federal government for 10 years to regulate artificial intelligence. That's a problem. A huge problem. All of my human trafficking friends have all been yelling from the rafters, and they're going to pass. Did they pass it?
No, they're still debating. I think that AI provision is going to get in there. States are going to ignore it because it's a violation of the 10th Amendment.
I think they lowered it to 5 years instead of 10 years. It's still, the federal government having control over anything should never be happening, period.
They can't even balance the budget, and they want to regulate. Come on. Okay.
So I always talk about, we have 6 minutes. I always talk about the fact that our government legislates themselves power. When they're legislating themselves power, they're taking the power away from us. Right? Okay? Their number one job and their only main job is to maintain our sovereignty. They're not doing that.
So this actually isn't our slide. Oh, there it is. Okay, so guys, wasn't that great? It was Trump and Biden like boxing each other, and Biden was in a diaper. Thank you, Father. This is wonderful. All right, guys. So I got it. Real quick. What's the formula, right? Sometimes you have to let it breathe, right? If you've ever done comedy. Okay, so in the time we have left as the plane circles the airport to land it. So here was the logic with Watchmen Action. We'll share a little bit with you guys about what we're doing. So the logic of the Watchmen Action training is that in 4 hours or less, we could deploy anywhere. This church is an example. And we could have you trained to go and tackle the core issues that matter to you most. In less than 4 hours, you'd come out being able to tell your story succinctly so that other people can carry it when you're not there. You can organize and mobilize your people in an effective way, and you can actually measure your success. Now, other groups have taken this. Politicians who have gotten elected have taken the Watchmen Action training and now actively use it. So there are 3 keys to victory that I just mentioned. In order for you to win any battle, and I'm saying this because your opponent uses this already, and you can turn the cannon the other way. Your story has to be told in such a way that massive amounts of people can easily tell it without you in the room. You have to be able to understand the strengths of the people that you're going to work with. If someone is good at air traffic control of people, you don't necessarily want them knocking on a door. You want them managing all the people knocking on the doors, so all the doors get knocked, yes? And then you have to be able to measure your level of success, or you will just fly blind, right? Pastor Ken has a church board, and every month or every quarter, he goes to them and says, here's what's going on. And they say, Pastor Ken, according to our church constitution, you are meeting or exceeding the goals, or we got to have a talk. Does that make sense, right? That's how you should govern your life. Okay, everybody good there? All right, so let's take a look at some of the solutions we've come up with, and that's moving fast. All right, so this is what's happening for us this year. We've got 3 major initiatives with Watchmen Action. Number 1, expand the Watchmen Action training. Our hope is that Pastor Ken says you guys need to come back and train. We want to talk with as many groups and as many people as possible because conservative Christians stand in the gap, and we could fix all of this overnight if we follow these things, right? So that's one. We want to expand the Watchmen Action training. We've now done a Schoolhouse Rock version for young people. 2 groups came to us and said, do a youth version. We said, okay, great. So we're doing that, and also getting it into other language. Our brothers and sisters who are Hispanic have come to us and said, we want to train. Now in Florida, we have a large Cuban population, very conservative.
He had a good business, solid product, good people. He just couldn't figure out why growth had stalled. Sherlock found the buyers he didn't know were looking. Now he knows exactly where to go next. Learn more at investinanswers.com.